a tech on him! Tech! Tech!
All right, guys. Je vais vous lire quelque chose. Les entraîneurs sportifs seraient responsables de 5,3% des agressions sexuelles subies par les adolescents et adolescentes québécoises au cours de leur vie. Selon une récente étude menée par une chercheuse de l'Université Laval, l'étude suggère qu'un adolescent sur 10 âgé entre 14 et 17 ans dit avoir été victime d'agressions sexuelles à un moment ou l'autre de sa vie. Du lot, les entraîneurs sportifs seraient responsables de 5,3% des agressions, soit une agression sur 20. Guys, c'est votre talk chez eux comme d'habitude, Edlin. On a un épisode spécial aujourd'hui à TechnicalFoulPodcast. Vous avez dû voir qu'on commence différemment. J'ai un co-host spécial aujourd'hui aussi pour l'émission.
Hey-o.
Je pense que je n'ai pas à le présenter.
Mon nom, c'est Thierry Lindor. Je suis vraiment honoré d'être au TechnicalFoulPodcast. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, ça va être une conversation importante. On a des invités de qualité. Et surtout, gros shout-out à toi, Edlin, d'avoir pris le devant sur ça. On est là aujourd'hui pour parler des événements qui ont choqué le Québec, le Canada aussi, je pense, de façon plus large, plus macro, mais de façon plus micro, une communauté qui est la communauté du basketball, qui est une communauté de gens qui sont marginalisés. Une communauté qui a accueilli les anglophones, qui a accueilli les Irlandais, les Juifs,
Tout
les
le
Noirs,
monde.
les Haïtiens, les Jamaïcains. Puis je pense qu'on s'est tous retrouvés dans une belle communauté qui s'appelle le basket, mais comme on a vu récemment dans les nouvelles, Edlin, il y a une nouvelle qui est quand même assez dégueulasse. On parle de l'Express Saint-Laurent, 3 individus, 3 coachs. On va les nommer brièvement, mais ce n'est pas eux nécessairement. On ne veut pas qu'ils mobilisent ou monopolisent le sujet.
Mais en premier lieu, on va tout d'abord introduire nos invités, parce que les invités qu'on a aujourd'hui, on a choisi des gens qui ont vraiment du poids pour parler du sujet. Donc, sans plus tarder, il y en a un que je suis sûr et certain, si vous faites partie de la confrérie, de la communauté de basket au Québec, vous avez tous voulu jouer pour lui. So, sans plus tarder,
Pat Sullivan. Et juste un petit note pour tous ceux qui nous écoutent, l'épisode va être en franglais. Parce que, comme on a dit, on est inclusif, le comité du basket. Il n'y a pas de français-anglais. On va arriver à Basketball Québec après. Là, c'est un petit peu plus ségrégué. Mais nous, au TechnicalFoulPodcast, on est inclusif. Franglais.
On va avec la communauté.
Si vous ne comprenez pas l'anglais, ben, ça va être sous-titré sur la chaîne YouTube. Allez souscrire à TechnicalFoulPodcast pour le YouTube channel. Sans plus tarder, Pat Sullivan, puis on a Jessica Riera après nous.
Pat, can you tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you're relevant to this story?
Today, yeah.
I started coaching Sun Youth after playing basketball at university. So I started coaching around when I was 22 up until today. I coached at Sun Youth for over 20 years.
Wow.
The city team in the city, I coached about 10 to 12 years. And then I continued to coach the summer program after that. So in total, about 25 years at Sun Youth coaching.
Years. Yeah.
So most of the people watching the podcast today know who you are,
100%.
tried to play for you,
Played against him.
played against you, so you've been around, everybody knows you, but a little bit more precise regarding the recent events that happened at St-Laurent. How you considered yourself someone that could really speak on that matter?
Well, obviously, at some point at Sun Youth in the early 2000s, we had our director of the sports program, Henry Wong, who was accused of sexual crimes with boys.
Okay.
And I mean, I was the one who reported it to Sun Youth at the time.
Thank you.
And you know, it was a strange situation because we didn't really know exactly what was going on, but we knew something strange was going on.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to this topic, and you know, it was even today. I don't know 100% exactly what went on, but it was some strange things.
Some strange stuff.
We're going to come back to it. We're going to get back to it. Chère demoiselle, merci de ta présence. En passant, aujourd'hui, la température est vraiment pas belle. Donc, les invités qui ont pris le temps, Pat et la demoiselle qui est venue aujourd'hui, rappelle-moi ton nom encore.
Jessica Riera.
Jessica, se sont déplacés pour venir ici. On vous remercie énormément. Donc, Jessica, peux-tu te présenter rapidement, nous dire qui tu es et comment ce sujet vient te toucher personnellement?
Moi, je suis mère de 2 jeunes filles qui ont joué au basket. Une qui est au cégep présentement, puis une qui est encore en train de jouer au secondaire, en secondaire 5. Ma plus vieille a joué pour Express pendant 1 an. Puis j'ai toujours été une mère qui allait avoir toutes les games. Je connais beaucoup de jeunes dans la communauté. Je pense que j'ai jamais manqué une game de ma plus vieille. Après, ma plus vieille est partie de Express à P.D.G. Puis mes 2 filles ont joué pour P.D.G.
Jess, elle est humble. Jess, c'est la mère impliquée dans le sport. Elle est très humble en ce moment. Est-ce que c'est ton premier podcast?
Oui.
Non, Jess, c'est le genre de parent que tu veux avoir si tu coaches une équipe parce que tu es impliqué, tu es respecté, tu connais ton basket. Et ben oui. Donc, merci d'être avec nous, Jessica. Et toi, qu'est-ce qui t'a poussé à être là aujourd'hui? Tu sais, Pat nous a dit qu'est-ce qui l'a poussé. Toi, pourquoi tu t'es dit, tu sais quoi, moi, je dois participer à ça?
Ben, parce que c'est des filles que je suis sûre qu'il y a des victimes que je connais, même si je ne connais pas leur nom.
Exact.
Je les ai déjà croisées dans une game, je les ai déjà vues, puis je connais les 3 accusés, je les ai déjà vus, j'ai déjà eu des contacts. Puis c'est un sujet délicat, mais il faut en parler. Il ne faut pas que ça arrête, il faut pas que ça se passe encore. Puis tout le monde, dans ce temps-là, on allait dans des games, puis « Ah, mais lui, il faut le laisser, il est bon, il amène toutes les filles aux States. » C'était comme le gros rêve. Puis après ça, tu vois qu'il y a des affaires cachées derrière. Puis c'est pas correct, là. Parce que moi, quand j'ai vu la nouvelle, j'étais dans l'autobus, puis là, je regardais la nouvelle parce que le monde m'envoyait. Jessica, c'est à côté de chez moi. Là, moi, j'habite à Ville-Saint-Laurent. Puis je les ai déjà croisées plein de fois. Puis ma question, c'était comme, OK, j'ai appelé les filles, je les ai textées, les filles que je connais personnellement.
Exact.
Est-ce que vous êtes correct? Oui, Jessica, merci d'avoir pris contact. Eux aussi étaient déboussolés, là.
Ben oui.
Mais moi, quand je l'ai dit à ma fille, elle m'a dit... elle n'était pas surprise parce qu'apparemment, qu'il y avait, il y a on entend des choses entre les couloirs, mais est-ce que c'est vrai, c'est pas vrai? C'est vraiment comme délicat comme sujet, mais au moins, moi, je voulais juste savoir que ma fille, elle avait été correcte.
Ben c'est là qu'aujourd'hui, on est là parce qu'on parle plus précisément de Robert Lou, qui a été accusé.
Xavier Boilard
et le grand Manitou, Daniel Lacasse. Moi, je vais donner un disclaimer. Je connais Xavier et je connais pour avoir joué contre Daniel Lacasse. Donc, aujourd'hui, je vais parler pas en opinion, mais en connaissance de cause de qu'est-ce que je connais de eux. Après ça, c'est sûr que je vais donner mon opinion sur la situation puis le sujet. Je veux aussi être clair, parce que je peux déjà voir les gens qui vont regarder ça. 3 hommes, une femme qui parlent d'abus contre des jeunes femmes. Right? Je peux déjà voir le sujet puis les gens. Je veux être clair. Nous avons invité près de 10 femmes à participer à la conversation. Et Jessica, c'est la seule qui s'est présentée aujourd'hui. Il y avait 3 personnes qui avaient confirmé puis qui ont décommandé dernière minute. Je pense que c'est important de le dire.
Non, c'est important de le dire parce qu'on va être pointé du doigt pour ça.
Exactement.
Moi, ma plateforme, les gens savent que je sois pointé du doigt ou pas, ça ne dérange pas. Mais ça demande... C'est un disclaimer, mais ça demande aussi... Ça prouve en fait qu'est-ce que Jessica a toujours fait.
Oui.
Tu comprends? Se déplacer, peu importe les intempéries, s'impliquer dans une cause pour ses enfants, pour la jeunesse, en fait. Puis ça, c'est une conversation qu'on a besoin d'avoir. Oui. Malheureusement, les gens ont peur. Oui. Une chose aussi que je vais souligner, moi, j'ai déjà try-out pour Pat. J'ai jamais joué à son youth. Okay. J'ai try-out à 2 reprises pour le Summer Team. Je n'ai pas fait le Summer Team. Donc, Pat et moi, on n'avait pas nécessairement une relation. Oui. Je ne pense pas que Pat me connaît ou whatever. Il va peut-être connaître la génération parce que j'ai joué contre lui, whatever. Mais on n'a pas une relation. Et quand toutes ces choses-là sont sorties, j'étais actif sur les réseaux sociaux. Ouais. C'est Pat qui a reach out, qui a dit, you know what? Something has to be done. Some words, not some words, but there's certain things that need to be clear, that needs to be said in order to be able to help those little girls.
Period.
Tu comprends ce que je veux dire? Puis ça, pour moi, c'est honorable dans cette situation que des gens prennent l'initiative de vouloir parler, de vouloir parler derrière un micro, devant une caméra, de ne pas avoir peur des préjudices qui vont peut-être venir, parce que qu'on le veuille ou non, peut-être sa direction d'école aurait peut-être préféré qu'il ne parle pas de ce genre de choses. Ton emploi aurait peut-être préféré que tu ne parles pas de ça. Tes filles auraient peut-être dit, maman, je ne veux pas être dans tout ce... on est conscient de ça.
Ouais.
Puis aujourd'hui aussi, we're going to do our best to talk about this, but not put you guys in situation that you guys should not be.
Yeah. And I want to touch on this. That's a good point, Pat. What made you reach out to Edlin? Like, what happened? What was the click that said, hey, was it because he was active? I know Russ told me that you saw live that KK or him or myself did. Like, what made you say, I'm reaching out to these guys and we need to talk about this?
Well, being from Sun Youth, obviously when something happens in the basketball community that can be related to something else, it comes up. So obviously when this happened and coaches were accused of having a sexual misconduct. So when that happens, Sun Youth's name's going to come up because it happened in our organization.
Yes.
So for me, it's I just want the record to be straight as far as like what happened, what we did, what didn't happen. I have some answers. I don't have all the answers, but I definitely could straighten out certain things and make sure that everybody understands. And I have thoughts that could probably help the situation.
So, speaking on this, that's a great point, Pat. I'm going to stay with you, and then we're going to bounce the question off to Jesse. When was the first time? Because in your case right now, we're not necessarily referring to Robert, Xavier, or Daniel. We're talking about, in my opinion, something that empowered these guys when they saw that there was no repercussion. I truly believe that. So I think if Henry Wong would have been made, because this is what we're talking about for people who don't know. We're talking about Henry Wong. Henry Wong was a staple in Quebec basketball, at least Anglophone Quebec, because Henry was seen as the guy that had the connections to the United States, but more importantly, to another predator, which we found out after, which was Ernie Lorch, who was at the head of Riverside Church. And Riverside Church, for anybody that has been a fan of basketball for the past 25 to 30 years in Quebec.
You've seen them play at Sun Youth.
You've seen them play. You've been in awe of them.
Yeah.
You've wanted to play for them. You've wanted to be them. I know Lindsay Alandu from Montreal played with them. And on that team, he played for Ernie Lorch. He played with Eric Barkley, Ron Artest, and the list goes on. All these big names that ended up playing in the NBA. Baron Davis.
How many you said? 27 players from his program?
No, 67.
67
67.
players.
No, no.
Played in the NBA.
If you played for Riverside Church, you were going in the league.
You're going, yeah.
Yeah, guaranteed. And turns out that the head of that team was a pedophile. And he was abusing young, mainly black kids for decades. And he was close friends with a gentleman named Henry Wong. Henry Wong was the head of basketball at Sun Youth. Sun Youth, for those of you listening to us, is a staples also into it says it's Sun Youth.
Yeah, it is. It is
It's an organization that has done a lot.
It's more than basketball, actually.
Exactly.
It's Jeunesse au Soleil.
It's food banks and all that stuff. So it's a staples in Mount Royal. Used to be at the corner of Rachel, Saint-Urbain or Saint-Laurent?
Saint-Urbain.
Saint-Urbain and Rachel, big building right there. Long story short, he was charged and convicted of sexual assault and molestation. I myself played for Henry Wong, and I'll get into that after, have my fair share of history with him. But Pat, take us back to the first time. So meaning the first time you're at Sun Youth, you either saw something or heard something that made you say, whoa, this is, and we could curse on this podcast. This
do
is fucked
whatever
up.
you want. This is
take us back to that time, approximately in your mind.
We're talking early 2000s.
Okay.
I couldn't say for sure the exact year, but early 2000s. And we were getting ready for practice. The girls were practicing, and the boys were just chilling. We had a game room with a pool table and a TV. So we were watching TV, just kind of hanging out. And one of the guys said something to somebody else, and I didn't catch it 100%. But then they started laughing. So this was very similar when, Thierry, when you mentioned it before. It was something about how long did you last with him? Like, how long did it take?
Yeah.
And in this particular situation, Henry used to psychologically play around with the kids, and he would tell them that if you can withstand me tickling your foot for a certain amount of time, that takes a lot of mental strength.
Yeah.
So if you can do this, then it could make you a better basketball player. It's similar to somebody saying if you get into defensive stance and can hold it for 2 minutes, you're going to be a better basketball player.
So you're playing with their
Well,
mind.
he found a way to
Manipulated.
manipulate and bring things about feet into the conversation. So I didn't really catch the whole conversation, like what happened. I didn't, but one guy said something about, did you last 45 seconds? And it was kind of a joke. It was kind of a joke between the two players, and a couple of the other guys were like, quiet, don't say anything. And I remember that it was when the one person said, who was one of the leaders on our team, when he said, quiet, don't say anything, he knew that I was going to pursue it. He knew it.
Yeah, and he knew that it was something big enough that other adults should not know about.
Yeah, exactly.
Would
Yes.
you say that?
Yes, because they all knew what they were talking about,
Exactly.
and I had no idea what
you
they were
had
talking
no clue.
about.
Exactly.
And,
And walk us through that. So you go through, wait, that's something's fucked up there. And then do you take that player aside and talk to him? Like, do you remember how you went about it? Or you directly took that story and went to
To the
higher
directors,
ups?
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I remember that as if it happened yesterday. We're talking 20 years ago, but I remember it as if it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
One of my coaches was in the room with me. The other coach was outside, so I told him, go get the other coach and come in here right away. So the kids were there. Both coaches came into the room, and I told one, take 8 of them into the gym and start shooting.
Okay.
And I said, I don't want any of them to talk to each other. There's 6 baskets, no more than 2 per basket. And
So
I don't want them
separate
talking
them,
at
yeah.
all.
Isolate them. Yeah.
So what we did was we took 2 kids. We had one outside the office.
Smart.
We brought one inside the office, and myself and the assistant coach questioned them. So we didn't give them a chance. Like after
To
made up a
after
story,
that,
yeah.
after that, we questioned them right away. Like,
You right away went your human side kicked in and you said, no, that's not fucking
Not
right.
yet.
I need to talk to them right now and something's messed up. You wanted to get to the bottom of it.
There were a few things around that time that led up to it that were strange in my opinion. Like one player wasn't allowed to play in a tournament, and I didn't understand why. And Henry said it was because he was wearing a wave cap during the national anthem. So we go to the States often, and I mean, there's no way I'm letting a player of mine wear a hat or a wave cap during the national anthem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's disrespectful. And
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
so I said, how is he not playing in the next tournament because of that when I know that didn't happen?
That never
Well,
happened.
that's what I heard happen. So for some reason, this player wasn't allowed to play, and that was strange to me.
Yeah.
And later on, I found out it was because he tried to do something to the player, and the player kicked him.
Exactly.
So there was
you
more.
were saying
There was more to it. That wasn't. I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, you
But
did.
later on, after I
It came
questioned the
out.
kids
Yeah.
that day,
Yeah.
later on it came out of.
I have one question about that. You know those kids that you saw that were talking amongst them regarding that? Do you have the impression that the ones that were speaking amongst them were the only ones that were maybe that it had happened to them?
Well, that's the thing where I say they were joking around a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, but go back to, because I think we're fast forwarding too fast. Take us back, because you're describing it perfectly. You isolate the kids, nobody's allowed to talk, shoot on 6 different baskets. You're with an assistant coach, you're bringing them one at a time, and you say, we're
Interviewing
getting to
them,
the
yeah.
bottom of this.
Yes. Like
Okay.
I didn't know what was going on, but
Yeah.
there was something going on, and
The first kid comes in, you ask him straight up.
I said, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You mentioned something about 45 seconds," and,
Yeah.
and he said, "Yeah, it happened to me. He lasted longer. What are you talking about?"
Jeez.
And it was funny. Like the loudest guys that joke around all the time, guys that have fun all the time, guys that are leaders.
Yeah.
Most of them clammed up. They didn't say anything.
Quiet.
I had 18, 19-year-olds crying in front of me.
See?
Like I asked
So
them
they
questions.
didn't speak. Like just by asking the question, they folded. Like they start crying.
Even though they didn't get a chance to meet with each other, they obviously knew.
Yeah. What was
They had
something
talked
was-
about this before.
Yeah, yeah.
And right away it was like nothing. Everybody said nothing. So almost every person said nothing, and then they turned their head. They wouldn't look at us.
They were
And then-
embarrassed.
It's a
They
shame.
knew it was,
Yeah.
they were ashamed.
Yeah, it's something like when you talk of a predator, you often hear that they're getting on the weak. You know, they're preying on the weak. To me, I like to say it as they're preying on the vulnerable, because
100%.
these kids, now we're talking 16, 17, 18, none of them were weak. Okay, none of them were weak kids. They were strong kids. They were strong personalities, but this was a situation where somebody had something that they wanted.
Correct.
And they were vulnerable because in that sense they were vulnerable. We were from Canada. We're not in the States. It's not like they're going to be seen, by thousands of coaches.
Yeah.
We would have to go to the States to get there.
YouTube didn't exist back then.
So do you feel like that's the only opportunity they would get to go to the level they want to go? They have to deal with this man.
There's a path they have to take, and he's in that path, yes.
So, okay, and you go through interviewing these kids. Out of, let's say, the 10, 12 kids, how many confessed and said, he tickled me?
A few of them said that he tickled them.
And a few just won't talk.
Most of them, just the fact that they said, I don't know, they wouldn't look at me, they would turn the other way.
Knew.
I mean, a couple of kids just cried. Like, they cried. They didn't have a chance to talk to anybody else, so they didn't know what was coming.
Exactly.
When I started asking them questions, but I just asked them questions. I said, what are you talking about? Who are you talking about? What happened? Can you explain something to me? And my assistants were great. Like, they came in, they asked some questions.
Well,
And it was a weird situation. It was uncomfortable.
How do you play a game after that?
Yeah.
Well, we had practice. It was practice after.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like it was...
It was tough. It was weird.
Did Sonyu have to, let's say, hire some type of psychiatrist for the whole team or make sure that...
Fast, bro.
I'm going too
Of
fast.
course. after you get these témoignages, right? These testimonials.
Yeah.
And you get these emotional response. You're obviously feeling very, very also either mad at this. What do you do?
Actually, no.
Because that's the next
what type of emotion you're as a coach
feeling
going through right now?
Yeah.
I was actually realizing you don't know exactly the specifics, but you know this man is doing something wrong to the kids that we're responsible of.
Because this puts a stain on even somebody like you. You're a great
for sure.
coach. You don't do that shit.
And the whole
Exactly.
Sonyu organization as a whole. So what type
happens?
of emotion
Yeah,
do
that's a
you
great
go
question.
through?
So my first one is mad. I'm mad. And I was mad when I heard the thing come out of the kid's mouth because I didn't know what it meant. But these kids wouldn't hide stuff from me. These kids are kids that, like, we practice.
They
trust you.
They trust you.
Like, this was a situation where we lost by 70, I think, in our own tournament the year before or 2 years before. And I said, this will never happen again. We went from practicing 3 times a week to 5 times a week. We went to more tournaments. Our schedule was jacked.
Crazy,
like, we played all the best teams.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about going 15-0 or 18-0 in the Montreal League. It was about, can we play with the CJEPs? Are you going to be ready to play at the top
With the
level?
big boys, yeah.
And so I was mad. I was mad. And I was concerned, and I want to find out, like, why are 18-year-old boys crying?
Yeah, exactly. After
and,
you ask them a simple question, knowing, like you said earlier, that these are strong physically and morally and mentally kids. If they're just folding, crying after you've had a couple of confession, something's up. What do you do right after that?
So I can't remember 100%. There's 2 people at Sun Youth that I would have contacted. Ernie Rosa, who was he might have been the assistant in sports, and Earl. So that night,
big boss.
I said, Earl is the head of Sun Youth, the founder. So that night I said, I want to meet with somebody tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it might have been a Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
We met the next day. And myself and another coach went. We met with Earl at a restaurant, and we pretty much got to it right away.
And you told them like what you saw and what you heard.
We said we don't know 100% what's happening, but there's kids going to his house. He is touching them, he's tickling them, and it's just strange. And kids are crying, so it's not just
Exactly.
that.
They know it's wrong.
There's something more.
They know it's wrong.
And I don't know exactly what
Yeah,
it is, but there's something more.
Yeah.
So it's been taken to another level. And
What was said and done right then? How did he react? Did he react surprised? Did he know? Did he be like,
Earl was mad. Definitely he was mad. And he said, you're not allowed to have kids at your house.
period?
You're not allowed. He's a Sun Youth employee. He's not allowed to have kids at his house.
Okay, period. Okay.
And he said he knows that. He knows that he's not allowed to have kids at his house.
That Henry Wong is aware of the fact that he cannot have kids at his house.
Yeah.
But he had never heard of this. This was a first for him. He had never heard of this. No parents had come to him.
No.
Okay. Let me just make a parenthesis, okay? I graduated in 2001. So I'm the same generation as Damien, okay, per se. So I'm from the east side of Montreal. I'd never played for Sun Youth. And to me, I knew it was a normal thing to go to Henry's to to watch games. And
If you went to Henry's house,
I didn't go. I was supposed to go. The day that I was supposed to go, I ended up not going. But a couple of my friends that from the east side of Montreal that played ball, not necessarily from Sun Youth, we knew that if we wanted to watch NCAA games, back then it was Khalid El Amin that we wanted to watch. He had tapes of Khalid El Amin, UConn, Dukes. He had all those tapes.
that's how you lured people.
So he had the N1 mixtape when they just came out. So
He had what we wanted. He
yeah.
had what kids wanted.
But the thing is, hearing this, I'm like, he knew that he wasn't supposed to have any kids at his house. But I knew as a kid that this is the place to be if you want to know, if you want to see some type
That's
of
the
basketball.
chocolate factory.
So c'est tellement fou là.
Non, c'est dingue, ça, c'est dingue. Et to rebound on what you're saying, Jessica, I want to bring you into this conversation parce que tu entends ce que Pat dit et toi, en tant que parent, en tant que mère, en tant que fan de basket, tu as aussi coaché. Je pense que tu as aidé à coacher ou tu as été assistant.
Non, j'ai jamais coaché.
Ben, tu as l'air d'une coach quasiment.
Tu étais
J'ai
tout le
juste-
temps dans le
toujours
gym.
là.
Ouais,
puis
je
elle
crie,
connaît
on
son
m'entend, là,
basket,
tout le
là.
monde... C'est
Les
vrai,
refs la connaissent.
Oui, tout le monde me disait, OK. Des fois, je passais dans les corridors, puis comme Pagé.
Ouais, c'est ça.
C'était moi, puis il y avait une autre maman aussi qui était très impliquée, Betty.
Ouais.
On était comme, on
Shout-out
était
à
tout le
Betty.
temps.
Yeah.
Oui, vraiment, là, on était, tout le monde nous connaissait. On a eu à un moment donné un petit cadre de Pagé qui nous disait deux mamans
Mais
qui s'étaient beaucoup impliquées, là.
on va parler de ça, Jess, parce
We need
que...
more of you.
Oui, c'est ça. Moi, je me rappelle, toi, ma mère, c'était toi.
Ouais.
Toi, tu étais ma mère. Ma mère, c'était la petite Française blanche fatigante
Tout
qui était à
petite, ouais.
toutes les games de basket. Mais j'ai joué avec des confrères haïtiens.
Mhm.
Il n'y avait aucun parent qui était là.
Non.
Aucun.
Non, moi aussi.
Il y avait ma mère, puis il y avait un père latino.
OK.
C'est tout. Puis on était 12, 13 joueurs à Lucien Pagé, and we had great years. The point I'm trying to make, and I'm not blaming the parents here, because we're going to hopefully have time to talk about this.
We're
It is
gonna
a-
have to.
We're going to
We're
have
gonna
to.
have
It is a
to.
system. It is a system of oppression. It is a privilege to be able to have time,
Yeah.
to make time to go to all these games. And I think people don't understand who plays basketball, which is going to take us to Basketball Quebec in a couple of minutes, because that shows you the dichotomy and the complete disconnect between the people that are playing,
Et les
coaching,
gens on
the great
top.
coaches, and the overseer.
Mais en même temps, Thierry, c'est une affaire que toi et moi, séparément de nos côtés, on dit tout le temps.
Tout le temps.
Mais si tu regardes présentement, ça c'est mon opinion, si je regarde les gens qui jouent au basket et les gens qui dirigent, pour moi, qu'est-ce que je vois? C'est un reflet de notre société entre qui sont les ouvriers, qui sont les gens
Les
qui
boss.
doivent faire fonctionner notre société,
Yeah.
and who's ruling those people.
100%.
Tu comprends? Donc, on fait juste reproduire à une plus petite échelle.
Yeah.
Mais je vais juste...
But
Vas-y,
let
vas-y,
her
vas-y,
finish on
vas-y.
the parent side. When you hear a great coach, and you know what, to me, Pat, because I played for Pat. I played for Pat in Kentucky, in Indiana. We went I went to places with Pat that Lucien Pagé never took us.
Okay.
Because we didn't have a program that was substantial. Sun Youth was it.
Yeah,
If you were- it was the program. They had the best. The Christmas tournament at Sun Youth is legendary.
They
At
didn't
least
have the
what-
best gym or the biggest gym,
But that made it
but you
magical.
needed to be there.
Because you couldn't get in. Right? The people were on top of one another.
Yeah.
They would keep the door open. Shea Cotton. I remember Shea Cotton, seeing Shea Cotton,
Yeah,
Ed
c'est
Cota.
vrai. Ed Cota.
I dreamt of these guys. These are people, Ajou Dang. So I remember thinking, I'm going to quit Lucien Pagé potentially and go to Sun Youth. But it was an Anglophone, Francophone thing, which we're not have time to talk about today, but it was that for us, where Terry
We'll
speaks-
invite you for that
Yeah,
specifically.
Terry speaks English, so yeah, leave us, you're a traitor, and then, I'm Haitian, and I'm like, no,
Yeah. But that was really a thing,
l'union
though.
fait la force. So it was a thing.
That was
But
a
when you
thing.
hear him as a great coach talking about this, caring, evidently caring,
And
like right
I'm
away.
sorry, but you have to say it. I know Pat would never say it like that, but it's still a fact that we have to recognize. C'est un homme blanc qui donne son énergie, son
Ah non,
temps.
mais ça, c'est sûr.
Tu comprends ce que je veux
Mais
dire?
ça, on va y arriver. On va y arriver au côté race, là. Race, j'aime pas le terme race, nationalité. Puis, parce que Pat, c'est une minorité aussi.
C'est ça,
dans
c'est
le
là.
basket
C'est
québécois.
pour ça que je
As
souligne
an
ça.
Anglophone man, you're Irish, Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, that I
Irish
didn't know.
people on top of that, like we could go into that as well. But as a mother, I want to stick to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a
Could I,
parent.
could I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to finish off the one story, because we're in the restaurant with Earl.
Oh,
and
nice.
True,
Was it
yeah.
finished?
No, I just wanted to finish the one
Yeah,
Yeah,
story.
you're right. Thank you.
Because that's where there's confusion in the community. We met with Earl,
Yes.
and within 7 days, Henry Wong was no longer working at Sun Youth.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So we met with him, and when I say he was
so
no longer
Earl-
working, his office was empty
Cleared.
seven days after. So we went.
That's an important one. I did
Yeah,
not know that.
that's important.
I didn't know that.
We went, met with Earl. Earl said what he said. He met with the people in the they have a board of directors.
Yes.
He met with the top
it's a
guns at Sun
nonprofit,
Youth,
yeah.
and right away it was over.
Okay, I absolutely did not know that.
A lot of people don't know
Because
that.
I was under the impression Sun Youth protected him.
Well, we'll move on after, but here's the one thing that he was asked to leave, but then he was still in the basketball community for another 10 years
Yeah.
Because he went to
because
Parkex
Yeah,
and
exactly.
right, but nobody had proof of what he did, and there was nobody that wanted to come forward and say that he did something to them.
got you.
But he was asked to leave by Sun Youth and left. So something
did
for
not
sure
know
did
that.
happen.
Okay,
We're gonna come back to that because when I spoke to you over the phone, you came up with specific points regarding that because you fought for a long time to get it convicted. So we're gonna have to come back to that because
sure.
right now the victim might need that help, might need that information.
Sure.
So Jessica, when you hear like a coach did his job, right, as a parent, what would have been your would have been your expectation or your reflex? Ça aurait été quoi ton réflexe si tu avais été une mère d'un des jeunes de Sun Youth, par exemple, puis que ton jeune t'en aurait jamais parlé. Mais
OK,
que
si
Pat-
j'aurais été dans cette...
Exact. Puis que
OK.
Pat, lui, en tant que coach, ben, il dit, moi, je viens d'apprendre ça, puis je veux vous le dire tout de suite. Toi, en tant que mère impliquée, qui aime le basket, qui est fan de basket, ça aurait été quoi ton réflexe en tant que parent?
Parler aux autres jeunes, parce que c'est sûr que si mon jeune, il joue pour l'équipe, moi, je suis genre de... Je connais toutes les ma fille, quand elle joue, quand elle jouait au basket, toutes les filles venaient à la maison, là, tu sais, c'est comme...
Ouais,
On
hangout
apporte...
spot.
Fait que c'est sûr que je vais me sentir assez à l'aise pour aller demander aux autres jeunes, comme, parle-moi, raconte-moi qu'est-ce qui est arrivé, tu sais.
Ouais.
Puis après, j'aurais été voir d'autres coachs ou la direction, là, c'est sûr. là.
Direct. Là.
Ben oui, direct.
Puis toi, dans le contexte de St-Laurent Express, pour revenir, parce que là, on a vraiment passé beaucoup de temps sur le sujet
Pat,
de
yeah.
Sun Youth. Puis encore une fois, merci, Pat. Hein? Thank you so fucking much for
Vraiment.
being here because, sorry to curse, but it's me, I'm passionate about this because hopefully we have time. I know Henry's modus operandi. Je
Yeah.
sais comment il opérait because he tried it with me and I punched him in the stomach. And
Ouais,
I
ouais, je
left his house, right? So, and then I was benched. I was benched for 5 games until it was like Sean Peters. Anyways, shout
That
out
was
Sean
at Vanier.
Peters. That was at Vanier. So toi, Jess, t'entends la nouvelle, ta fille a joué à l'Express,
Oui.
elle a joué pour Xavier.
Oui.
C'est quoi les sentiments qui te traversent de un? Puis qu'est-ce qui font que... Parce que oui, tu as eu un bon réflexe, tu as contacté tout le monde. C'est quoi les sentiments qui t'habitent quand tu entends la nouvelle? Dès que tu entends la nouvelle.
Ben, quand je regarde, parce que je vois ça sur... tu sais, je suis abonnée à la presse, là. Je
Yes.
reçois les...
Ouais.
Fait que là, je vois, là, je suis comme, ben non.
Tu vois leur face.
Ouais,
là.
je vois leur face. Là, je suis comme... Là, je pense à ma fille, parce que ma fille, elle a joué 1 an à Express.
À quel
puis après,
âge?
en secondaire 1.
Donc à 12, 13
Oui,
ans.
oui, oui. Fait qu'elle a joué 1 an, puis après, elle est partie pour Pagé.
Lucien
Fait que
Pagé.
là, oui, puis elle voulait vraiment quitter, là. Puis ma fille, elle connaissait personne à Pagé, là. Puis nous, on habite à Ville-Saint-Laurent. Tous ses amis sont restés à Express.
Malgré
Fait que là,
qu'elle a
moi-
fait l'équipe, malgré qu'elle est sur l'équipe,
Oui, oui, oui. Ma fille,
elle était prête à partir.
oui, elle voulait partir.
La plus grosse équipe
Ouais.
féminine
La
Exact.
minute qu'elle peut,
au Canada,
elle quitte.
presque quasiment. Là.
Oui, oui, au
Exactement.
Canada.
Fait que moi, quand je vois la nouvelle, il y a plein de choses qui commencent à me passer par la tête.
oui.
Là. Puis là, je me dis, mais pourquoi elle voulait partir? Est-ce qu'il y avait quelque chose? Fait que là, j'ai mon cœur qui bat. Je suis en train de pleurer dans le métro. Oh my God, ça vient. Fait que là,
Prends ton temps, hein.
j'appelle son père. Son père, il me dit, arrête, Jessica, mets-moi pas des choses comme ça dans la tête. Il me dit, Dalia nous aurait parlé. Elle est proche de nous. Comme ma fille, elle a beaucoup, comme, elle est ouverte à nous. Tu sais.
Ouais.
Fait que là, son père.
Vous
il me
avez
dit-
cette relation-là.
Oui. Fait que là, son père, il me dit, mets-moi pas ça dans la tête parce que je m'en vais, en tout cas.
À la cour.
Oui,
puis
à
on
la
va
cour,
régler
je
ça, là.
m'en fous. Puis là, il me dit, il faut lui parler. Fait là, j'attends d'arriver chez nous. Puis ma fille m'a dit, non, maman, ça n'a pas rapport. Moi, c'était juste que je n'étais pas bien. Je n'aimais pas comment il me coachait. Puis j'avais entendu que j'ai partait. Fait que c'était ça.
Qu'est-ce que
plus-
tu veux dire? Touche à ça un peu. Elle n'aimait pas comment il coachait ses connaissances de basket ou elle n'aimait pas
La
Comment il-
communication.
La communication.
comment
Sur le-
il parlait aux
Parce
jeunes?
qu'un coach, là, c'est super important. Là. Un coach, ça peut un coach a beaucoup, beaucoup de pouvoir. Ça peut te booster ta confiance ou te la détruire comme
Comme
ça.
ça.
Ouais.
Facts.
Fait que ils sont très, très importants, là, tu sais, c'est important. Puis ils les voient plus souvent que nous, là.
Ben
Ils ont 3 fois semaine pratique, 2 matchs comme ils sont tout le temps
avec eux.
plus que les parents, genre. Si tu ne vas pas voir ton enfant jouer, tu
Tu vois pas l'enfant.
Tu le vois pas parce qu'ils partent le matin. Des fois, c'est des trajets longs. Ils restent là pendant 2-3 heures. Ils ont 2 games. Ils reviennent. Les tournois, la même chose.
Puis sur ton point, le coach peut amener quelque chose à l'enfant que le parent ne peut pas amener. Admettons, moi, je suis fan de video games. Mon père, il ne peut pas jouer des jeux vidéo games. Mais Pat, he was one of the best video game players out there. No, but you see the analogy. He could teach me tricks and things that I'm passionate about. Il y a ça aussi qu'on oublie. Parce que j'ai fait l'analogie de dire que pour moi, le sport, c'est devenu le terrain de jeu de prédateurs avec des idées néfastes et surtout des comportements dangereux parce que c'est la nouvelle église, disons. Où est-ce que tu peux juste aller dans un terrain qui est propice à l'abus de jeunes personnes. Et encore une fois, les coachs amènent quelque chose aux jeunes que le parent ne pourra jamais amener. Donc, Daniel Lacaze, Xavier, Robert, ils amenaient quelque chose à ta fille que toi, tu ne peux pas nécessairement leur amener, à part toi, tu amènes l'amour parental et tout. Mais je trouve ça impressionnant que ta fille, en 2 secondes, la minute qu'elle peut quitter, elle dit non, moi, je m'en vais à Lucien Pagé. Ça, je trouve ça super intéressant.
Puis il y a beaucoup de monde qui l'ont pas jugé, mais ils disaient t'es Express. Tout le monde veut aller à l'Express. Tu sais même pas si Pagé, ça va fonctionner parce que c'était leur
première année.
Ça allait être leur première année. Fait que c'était du nouveau. Mais ma fille, elle est comme ça. Quand elle a quelque chose dans la tête, puis elle a dit non, moi, elle dit qu'à l'extérieur, il était correct. C'est comment il la coachait pendant qu'elle jouait. Elle n'aimait pas ça du tout.
Abus de pouvoir.
En match ou en pratique, admettons?
Les deux. Là.
Les deux?
Oui, les deux.
Puis toi, personnellement, dans les matchs que tu as pu assister, que tu as pu voir, est-ce que, pas nécessairement à ta fille, mais est-ce que, c'est sûr, c'est juste une seule année, mais est-ce que tu as pu apercevoir des comportements qui étaient... Observer des trucs qui étaient comme... ça, je l'aime un peu mieux, un peu moins.
Je dirais que... Tu sais, quand ils sont Benjamin, c'est pas si pire. Oui, il y a un peu, mais pas trop. Mais je les ai vus plein de fois. Là, j'ai été voir plein de games. Tu sais, Pagé puis Express. Mais ma fille, elle n'a pas eu beaucoup à dealer avec Dan parce qu'elle était en Benjamin, tu sais.
C'est vrai.
Mais quand elle a quitté...
Parce que
Dan m'a appelé.
C'est juvénile.
Dan m'a appelé parce que c'est le responsable. Puis il m'a dit, j'entends des rumeurs comme quoi ta fille veut partir. C'est comme, tu viens pas me voir. Puis là, j'ai contacté Xavier pour lui dire que ma fille n'était pas correcte. Puis il m'a jamais réécrit. Puis après ça, moi, comme j'ai dit, on avait déjà, ma fille, elle avait déjà fait son choix. Fait que, tu sais, j'ai respecté son choix. Elle est partie. Je l'ai revu plein de fois, Xavier. Il m'a jamais adressé la parole. Pourtant, pendant une saison complète, j'étais la mère qui allait regarder les games.
Toutes les games.
Il m'a jamais dit bonjour, rien. Rien, là. C'était comme... Il avait vraiment pris sur le cœur qu'elle ait choisi comme de quitter, tu sais.
Mais tu vois aussi le narcissisme, tu vois le egomaniac. Parce que là, on parle, pour ceux qui nous écoutent, que vous veniez d'arriver ou que vous soyez là depuis longtemps, on parle de la nouvelle qui a vraiment bouleversé le monde du basket, le Québec au complet, de 3 coachs. Puis a priori, il y en aurait d'autres. Parce que moi, je vais être transparent, j'ai reçu beaucoup de messages. J'ai reçu à peu près 30 messages. Moi, j'ai pris ma plateforme, je suis allé faire un live, puis j'ai parlé de prédateurs versus proies. Puis j'ai dit que selon moi, c'est ça qu'on observait, des prédateurs et des proies. Mais on observait aussi une ségrégation qui existe depuis longtemps au Québec, une ségrégation linguistique, une ségrégation de culture, de nationalité, où on a littéralement des francophones à la tête. Puis là, je vais te laisser lire ton article, Edlin, parce que je pense que c'est un bon segue vers Basketball Québec, qui est principalement francophone, principalement caucasien, principalement homme, et qui reflète très bien quand même le modèle de l'Express. Des franco-canadiens, un petit filipino sprinkled here and there, un petit arabe, un petit black guy here and there. Mais ultimement, c'était un reflet quasiment...
De notre société.
De notre société, mais copier-coller aussi de Basketball Québec. Puis Edlin a un article qui est quand même assez important parce que moi, je veux aussi qu'on parle de ça. C'est quoi la responsabilité d'un organisme qui est supposé légiférer le basket au Québec, régir le basket au Québec, mais qui n'est pas représentatif du basket au Québec? Tu sais, moi, je parle, les légendes du basket québécois sont anglophones.
C'est ça.
On voit en ce moment le rap québécois est cool. Non, le rap, ça fait 30 ans là, qu'il y a des rappeurs noirs, haïtiens, jamaïcains.
On n'en parlait
anglophone
juste pas.
qui rappent. On n'en parle pas. Mais là, le rap keb, c'est cool parce qu'il y a 3-4 rappeurs franco-canadiens, caucasiens, hommes, blancs, qui sont bons rappeurs. tu sais. Puis le basket, pour moi, c'est un peu la même chose. Où est-ce qu'il y a plein de talents. Je pense à Pat. Pat was like a bulldog. To me, you're like a bulldog type of coach. We're winning. We're doing this. Like, you felt like a big brother. I remember playing for you, and I was like, I don't want to disappoint him. And that's a sign of a great coaching. Pascal Jobin was a great coach as well. They played basketball. They were great basketball players.
Yeah.
Now we have Daniel Grimard, who I played for Daniel Grimard's brother. I want to be totally transparent. Daniel Grimard is at the head of Basketball Quebec. Recently did an interview with Dutrizac. But before we go into this, I'm going to let Edlin read the mission.
C'est ça. Parce que là, il faut
Basketball
comprendre,
Québec.
si on parle de Basketball Québec, puis on va retourner dans son youth, on va retourner dans Express, mais il faut comprendre que même si son youth est civil, de loin ou de proche, ils doivent dealer avec Basketball Québec. La même chose aussi pour l'Express. Donc, là, ici, ce que j'ai, c'est la mission de Basketball Québec. Donc, la Fédération de basketball du Québec assure le leadership dans la promotion, le développement et le soutien de la pratique du basketball sur tout le territoire québécois. Leur vision, donc, la source de référence connue et reconnue de tous en basketball du Québec, la Fédération est un organisme de régie où la qualité de l'intervention fait foi de tout. La Fédération offre un encadrement supérieur dans tous ses programmes, événements et stages. La Fédération offre des services adaptés aux besoins des membres. La Fédération contribue au développement d'un environnement stimulant et sécuritaire où le participant peut se développer à la pleine mesure de ses capacités. Donc, ça, c'était la première partie. Il y a les valeurs. Je ne vais pas toutes les nommer et tout, mais il y a certains points qui sont quand même importants à nommer. Donc, nous croyons que nous croyons que le participant, compétiteur, entraîneur, officiel, administrateur, partisan doivent se respecter les uns comme les autres et en faire autant envers notre sport. Donc, déjà là, ça vient adresser certaines choses qui se sont passées à l'Express de Saint-Laurent. Nous sommes fiers de notre sport et du rôle qu'il joue, tant dans notre communauté et dans le milieu de l'éducation que dans le développement des participants. Notre sport est accessible à tous. L'éthique sportive est une partie fondamentale de notre sport. Nous croyons que notre sport contribue à améliorer le développement d'attitudes positives, d'habitudes de vie génératrices, de santé et de saines relations interpersonnelles. Je vais m'arrêter ici. Pourquoi?
Hearing this,
Oui.
do you believe, Pat, and that's your opinion, it's not based on anything but your opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion. Do you believe Basketball Quebec has been playing its role in terms of optimally on and off the court, keeping a tight leash on the behavior of coaches? You've been coaching for 25 years. For example, was Basketball Quebec implicated in the Sun Youth scandal at all? Were they ever implicated?
No. I played for Basketball Quebec, and I played for Sun Youth.
For Team Quebec.
Oh, okay. So for both.
There was
He was a great basketball player.
there was an issue there because Sun Youth did their own thing in the summer,
Yeah.
and at
Team
one
Quebec.
point there was like a standoff. Like
There was
the
a
whole,
split.
Well, the whole Quebec team was the Sun Youth team.
Exactly.
And that was the first year when I played. So like the Quebec team was made. There was
Yeah.
12 players, and it was the whole Sun Youth summer team. So
And we used to play against them. I played for Pat, and I remember that we beat the Sun Youth team.
When you played on
beat
the-
the Sun
Team
Youth
Quebec,
team
yeah.
but it was never an official game. They
Sun
wanted
Youth
to-
would never lose. In my time, Sun Youth would never lose against the Team Quebec team.
we would play the
Never.
Quebec team and we would beat them. So anyways, keep going. Sorry we cut you off.
well, I haven't been that close with the Quebec team over the years because I've been on the Sun Youth side, and
On the
there has
Team
been
Sun
a
Youth,
definite
yeah.
separation. But there has been players for Sun Youth playing for Quebec over the years, but not a ton because they've usually played with us.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot to say about the coaches that are there, like
You
because I don't know the situation there. I haven't seen a lot of
so
Quebec.
let me reframe my question. I'm not so much asking about the quality of the coaches. I'm asking from a body that is supposed to, Anglophone or Francophone, let's call it a spade, right? This is a government entity, meaning for the people listening to us, shout out to Technical Foul Podcast for the special edition. Basketball Quebec is paid with our taxes. So Daniel Grimard technically works for us, not just as basketball aficionados.
How many times someone from Basketball Quebec came into your gym just to check your coaching techniques?
Great.
If you're doing something right or wrong, speak to your players.
How are you
to know
exactly?
to see exactly how you interact with them. Go to see Earl.
Say the
Rest
truth.
in peace,
And
Earl.
Pat's gonna say the truth. How
Just
many
to
times
make sure
in 25
that
years?
yeah.
I don't know of any, to tell you the truth.
So in 25 years, there's never been somebody, an inspector
That
or
you know.
that did a random check, walked into the gym to see if Pat Sullivan was actually not abusing kids from like a psychological or moral.
Not
point.
even abuse, just making sure.
No, but make it about abuse. Because
Okay,
this
make
is
it
what we're
yeah,
talking about.
that's what we're talking about.
So none of the. That's an excellent question. Basketball Quebec, in your years of experience, you cannot attest to them ever sending somebody to check in the gym at Sun Youth.
I've never heard of them sending anybody to any gym, whether it be ours or
Do
someone
you
else.
think that to be normal or not? From just the point of view of the mission
Yeah.
that they say they represent. It's your opinion. We're not asked. It's not a judgment.
It's not
This is-
scientific.
No, I hear you. I just I don't know exactly if their role is to come in and tell other organizations. Should it be? That's a possibility. Something they got to look into.
It's a great question.
I mean, there was a separation between Sun Youth and the Quebec team for sure.
Sun Youth was like the Anglophone Quebec.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way, okay? I'm sorry. Sun Youth and Team Quebec are teams, right? But both teams have to operate within the Quebec province. So basically, Basketball Quebec is
oversees a governing body.
Exactly. Oversees every basketball activities in the province, basically.
Let's clarify for the
Yes.
listeners. For everybody listening, Basketball Québec, c'est le barreau des avocats québécois. Basketball Québec, according to their mission, paid with our taxes, is the equivalency of that. Meaning, le barreau makes sure that the lawyers respect the law. Basketball Québec issues and makes you guys pay to become coaches. Level 1, level 2, level this, level... All bullshit, in my opinion. But that's a different discussion for a different day. And Danielle, I hope you listen to this. I think it's bullshit. I think it's a scam. I think it's a way for you guys to make money.
Bullshit.
And you guys know it. In reality, you should have pop-up unannounced inspections to walk into gyms and make sure our kids are protected.
Exactly.
Right? So just from your opinion, and it's your opinion, this is not holding you to anything, you have never witnessed anybody from Basketball Quebec walking into your gym during your practices doing a random check-in.
Not that I know of. I know Dan Matteau, when he was with the Quebec team. I spoke to him a number of times.
Another Francophone Quebecer.
Right,
white
but
male.
I spoke to him. I was in a good relationship with him.
Daniel Méthode, yeah.
Method,
and
yes. It's a bunch of Daniel. Huh?
well, we spoke a lot. Was he investigating me? Was he checking up on us? Not that I know of. I mean, we're friends. We played against each other, and you know. But there is. He did come in our gym.
Okay.
Did Bob Como ever come in our gym? I never saw Bob Como.
I'm
in our
going
gym.
to ask you a question within the same line. Right now, I don't know, but I'm thinking that you're the lead coach at Sun Youth in basketball, and you're the person responsible for the program. Am I wrong?
Right now, or back then, I was
Back then, yes.
Back then,
Pat-
being
Pat
the
was
juvenile
good.
coach,
Okay.
I had most of the coaches.
Under you, and
You were the top coach.
okay. So how would you at Sun Youth make sure that those coaches respected the value that you implemented at Sun Youth?
We would have formal and informal meetings.
Nice.
2 or 3 times a year, we'd have formal meetings where it was just the coaches and we just talked about different things, how to get better, talked about players' trajectories, talked about working out, talked about what the summer teams were going to do, and just trying to get on the same page, because obviously if you're a feeder system, so if you have a mini
Correct.
team and the mini team's going up to Bantam, you
Exactly.
don't want them to be unfamiliar. So you want to be on the same page. So that's what we would do internally.
Would you sometimes just be in the gym, not really trying to police your coach, but just be in the gym and just observing how they're coaching, their coaching techniques?
Supervising them.
Not maybe supervising, but You know,
I could see Pat doing that.
Well,
you just taking a look, you know?
we were more peers. Let's say I might have considered myself a mentor to some
Yeah,
of the
that's
younger
it.
coaches.
Yes.
But for sure, we talked about stuff like that. We talked about how to deal with certain kids that have issues and how to deal with talking
cared.
to them.
Would you say you cared?
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
Right? And even sometimes when I was ungrateful to a lot of my coaches. Like even when kids were ungrateful, you still care for them.
You have to.
You try to be disciplinary with them. You try to inculcate values to them. Because let's face it, a lot of the kids at Sun Youth came from the same background we came from. Not very wealthy, right? You had one or two kids that were from a different community, right? That had the parents were a bit more wealthy, and you know they were there on the team. But most of the kids came from the same thing we heard in the newspaper in St-Laurent, right? Because that's what we heard. For those of you who don't know, that Dan Lacasse, Xavier, and Robert would actually target black, brown, poor, mainly kids, to recruit them to come and play for them. Would you say that that is a decent image, without being judgmental of their situation? Would that be a representation of what the Sun youth look like? In essence, that the Sun Youth kids, because you guys work by
The
referral.
demography, basically.
Yeah, I remember
of Sun
Kita
Youth.
trying to recruit me and Johnny. They would come and say, hey, I play for Sun Youth. You play at a school. Come and play with us because we go to the U.S. and we have Nike and so on and so forth. So would you say that black and brown kids would recruit other black and brown kids from their neighborhoods and bring them to Sun Youth and then eventually play for you?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I would tell the kids, we want, like, the first year I coached at Sun Youth, we weren't very good at all. I coached in Bantam, and I guess most of the team left for whatever reason. Some went up to midget. So I didn't have players. I think I had 4 kids in the gym that were given to me from the last
Yeah.
team.
Last batch, yeah.
So yeah, I went and recruited some players, different places, and I asked them to recruit their friends too. So
course.
I went to the top high schools, and I went to the top, but I was always straight up. I went straight to the head guy at the high school and said, if they play for us, they're going to be AAA, which means your high school has to play at the top level. But I didn't go into schools that didn't play AAA. I went to the top schools,
Gotcha.
and I told the kids to recruit. So yeah, eventually, I mean, if kids of a certain background are recruiting kids, they're going to be their friends. That
Exactly. That are from the same socioeconomic demographic.
it ends up. That's what ends up happening.
And do you see how, and obviously you're a great human being, great coach, and you were respectful and loved by your players, but do you see how problematic the behavior of the coach, and again, that's just your opinion, at l'Express, kind of like targeting these kind of demographic? Do you see that as, well, yeah, obviously that was a way to operate that they had. Do you see this as a potential real problem and danger, obviously?
I could see how there could be vulnerability with the kids.
Correct.
As we talked about predators and vulnerable.
Yeah.
I can see kids from a background like this being vulnerable.
And if I'm vulnerable and I'm a friend and I recruit another friend that might be in the same situation,
it's
it's
too
a vicious
vulnerable.
cycle,
Yeah.
right? So you just, for your daughter who played there, your daughter was not vulnerable.
Non.
Because you were present.
Mais comment tu as choisi d'aller là?
C'est exactement ça.
Ben, nous, ça se fait comme. Le primaire, c'était l'école Louisbourg. Louisbourg, c'est à Cartierville, puis l'école secondaire.
C'est l'école du
C'est
quartier.
Saint-Laurent.
C'est l'autre côté, là. C'est comme.
OK.
C'est l'école proche. Il y a Évangéline, mais eux, ils n'ont pas d'équipe de basket.
OK.
Ça, c'est l'école du quartier de secondaire.
Donc, elle n'a pas été recrutée.
Oui,
Elle a été recrutée.
oui, comme quand elle jouait à
Mini.
Louisbourg, eux, ils viennent déjà les regarder
eux?
les matchs. Ben,
Xavier,
oui, ben, comme
Dan.
ils viennent voir les joueurs, ou des fois, tu fais quand ils font des tournois, tu vas à Express, puis là, ils regardent. Puis là,
Ok,
ils viennent
parenthèse.
pouvoir parler.
bien.
Comme, ils viennent parler, ils disent on veut que tes enfants, ta fille vienne jouer.
est-ce que toi, tu te rappelles qui t'avait dit on aimerait ça que ta fille vienne jouer? Ou tu t'en rappelles pas nécessairement?
Ben oui, je me rappelle, mais c'est pas.
C'était pas un des trois.
Non, c'est pas un des trois.
Mais il faut que tu comprennes, la réalité de l'école où sa fille était, Louisbourg, dans le mini-basket, c'est Chicago Bulls en 98.
Ah,
là.
c'est une grosse équipe
Oui,
de
oui,
basket?
ouais, là,
Il y a
tout le-
beaucoup, il y a beaucoup.
Tout le monde à Louisbourg se fait recruter, là.
Ah, OK.
C'est ça,
ben,
là.
je savais pas, Charlotte Louisbourg. So, Louisbourg à l'Express, elle arrive à l'Express. Est-ce que toi... Parce que moi, je pense qu'il faut... On va revenir sur Basketball
Mettre
Québec.
l'accent sur qui target.
Vas-y.
Quand tu vas à Express, tu es très impressionné aussi parce que leur gym est beau. Tu sais, comme parent, tu vas te passer de Louisbourg là, ils ont rénové, là, mais c'est comme si c'était un petit gym par rapport. Tu vas dans les écoles, là, tu vas à Express, c'est super
Estrade,
beau. Tu vois
branding.
toutes les banderoles autour du mur. Tu te
Comme
dis,
ça,
cette équipe veut ma fille, tu sais.
Ouais.
Fait que ça, t'es impressionné.
T'es
100%.
choc.
T'es impressionné.
Tu rentres dans l'église, là, c'est la grande église. là,
Oui,
tu sais,
puis
tu
là,
dis,
ils te montrent tout. Ils te montrent les vidéos, qui voyagent, qui vont aux États-Unis, qui vont... je pense qu'ils avaient été déjà dans le sud dans ce temps-là. Ils avaient été à Bahamas.
ouais,
Il y
je
avait-
pense, yeah.
Comme ils font des gros voyages, c'est comme il y a beaucoup de potentiel. Ta fille ici, là, il y a quelque chose...
Elle va aller quelque part, ta fille.
Oui, exact.
Et dans l'équipe de ta fille, majoritairement, black, brown, genre?
Oui, mais parce que Louisbourg, c'est une école de quartier. Puis dans mon quartier, où moi, je suis...
Tout le monde est noir
Je
et
pense qu'il y
brun.
avait un Québécois dans toute l'école.
Mais dans le fond, je pense
C'est une
que
petite école.
qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire aussi, c'est peut-être expliquer le quartier. L'école Express de Saint-Laurent se situe à Ville-Saint-Laurent,
Oui.
qui est un quartier majoritairement aussi, pas pauvre, je dirais, mais très
Ouais.
multiethnique.
Pas
Ça, c'est-
pauvre.
ça,
pas
ça,
pauvre.
ça,
Pas
c'est-
pauvre,
Il y a
mais
un
très
côté qui est
multiethnique.
pauvre, puis il y a un
Exactement.
côté qui est très riche, parce que derrière
Moi, j'ai
l'école, il
habité
y a
à
Bois-Franc.
Exact.
Mais c'est pour ça que je vous dis, c'est pas pauvre, mais c'est très multiethnique.
C'est
Ça, oui.
ségrégué. C'est ça l'importance.
C'est
Vous
ségrégué,
êtes au
ouais.
Technical Podcast, aujourd'hui, on va vous dire les vraies choses. Saint-Laurent, puis le scandale de Saint-Laurent, c'est un micro case study d'une société qui est ségrégée de façon macro, où les anglophones ne parlent pas aux francophones, blancs, noirs, peu importe.
Peu importe.
Où on a un racisme systémique et une oppression certaine. Et à Saint-Laurent, j'ai habité à Bois-Franc. À Nouveau-Saint-Laurent, tu as Bois-Franc. C'est deux des quartiers les plus riches au Canada, pas au Québec, au Canada. Mais de l'autre côté de la rue, en bas de la rue, tu as effectivement Saint-Laurent, quartier-ville, qui est
Très multiethnique.
très multiethnique.
Un peu plus pas défavorisé, parce que c'est pas vrai que c'est
on
pauvre.
défavorise.
C'est ça.
C'est pas qu'il est défavorisé,
On
le
les
système le
défavorise, ouais.
défavorise. Toi, tu étais une mère impliquée, tu étais présente dans la vie de tes enfants. Parle-moi de ça parce que je ne peux pas arrêter de me poser la question. Je sais que les coachs aiment voir
Mais
des
attends,
mères
t'as
comme
sauté,
toi.
t'as sauté. Pourquoi on est allé là? C'était pour expliquer à quoi ressemblent les membres de l'équipe de sa fille.
Ouais, mais c'est ça. Là, toi, en tant que mère impliquée,
Mhm.
on a dit que ton équipe, c'était majoritairement black and brown.
Oui.
Francophone, anglophone,
Ah non, dans mon francophone.
majoritairement francophone.
Ouais.
Est-ce que tu étais une des seules mères? Tu as dit que vous étiez deux mères qui étaient présentes.
Ça, c'est à... OK, moi,
Ah, c'était à Lucien Pagé.
Oui, c'était à Lucien
À
Pagé.
Express.
À Express, il y avait dans l'équipe... Non, il n'y avait pas beaucoup de parents.
Il n'y avait pas beaucoup de
Non.
parents.
Mais par contre, je dois dire que maintenant, la nouvelle génération, ma deuxième fille qui est en secondaire 5, il y a beaucoup, beaucoup plus de parents.
Puis elle est en
Parce qu'ils font
secondaire 5.
partie de ma génération, que
anciens
les
joueurs.
parents... Moi, j'ai grandi... Moi, je suis arrivée ici au Canada, j'avais 2 ans. Fait que, tu sais, on a d'autres...
Oui, valeurs,
d'autres valeurs.
priorités.
Puis ça, c'est le fun de voir. Parce que moi, je me rappelle, quand ma plus vieille, était au primaire, pas de
Il y avait
parents.
personne.
J'étais un parent.
Ouais.
Puis son coach était tout le temps, les parents, il faut venir encourager, c'est important. Puis des fois, on jouait contre Trois-Rivières, mettons. Moi, j'étais un parent dans le banc et tu avais tous les parents de blancs
Ben
qui
oui.
étaient. Tu avais la grand-mère, l'oncle, le papa.
Les Québécois.
Oui, tous les Québécois, ils étaient là avec. Puis moi, la seule, là. OK. Ça, c'était quelque chose, mais une chance que ça change, là.
Ouais.
Ça change. Mais au primaire, là, c'était grave. Au secondaire aussi, mais là, comme la nouvelle génération, ils sont là.
Ouais.
Parce que là, moi, je vois ma fille de secondaire 5.
Elle
Quand
va
tu vas à
où?
Pagé,
Quel secondaire?
à Pagé.
À Lucien?
Elle va à Lucien
Shout-out to
Pagé.
Pagé.
Quand tu vas, là, tu vois tous les bancs, là. Là, des fois, Alder, il dit, oh my God,
Shout-out à Alder.
oui, en niaisant, il dit, OK, là, il y a vraiment beaucoup de parents. là. Avant, il y en avait 1, 2. Je devais dealer avec ça, mais là, il y en a plein, tu sais. Mais c'est bien.
C'est ça qu'il
J'ai
faut.
Ça en blague. là.
C'est ça qu'il
Puis
faut.
toi, on est d'accord que si tu avais été un parent à Sun Youth
Mhm.
et tu avais eu la chance d'avoir un coach qui aime vraiment les jeunes avec qui il travaille, mais tu aurais entendu cette histoire-là d'abus. Ça aurait été quoi ton réflexe? Tu as dit tantôt que tu aurais réagi, mais tu aurais réagi. Est-ce que tu aurais été aux médias? Parce que c'est ça aussi que je veux parler.
Vas-y.
Je pense que Basketball Québec, moi, je suis convaincu que Basketball Québec ont reçu beaucoup de plaintes.
Mhm.
Moi, je suis convaincu. Je ne peux pas croire qu'ils n'ont pas été mis au courant de... Lui, il parle de situations problématiques, mais ma question à toi, Jess, c'est est-ce que tu aurais été jusqu'à aller à Basketball Québec? Parce que oui, tu aurais été voir les coachs, tu aurait été voir Ernie, puis Ernie aurait dit oui, on est déjà au
Mais
courant.
tu veux que je te dise quelque chose? Je ne
Vas-y.
savais même pas qu'il y avait Basketball Québec qui dirigeait.
Tu vois, là, c'est ça la problématique.
Non,
c'est
mais
comme
bro.
si un avocat disait,
C'est-
je ne sais pas que le barreau existe.
Et ça, c'est la maman qui est présente, pas celle qui n'est pas présente.
That's huge.
C'est la maman qui est présente, qui paye Tu comprends? C'est ça l'affaire, là. Si on estime... Moi, ma mère et moi, on a fait le calcul. De secondaire 1 à 5, ma mère a dépensé presque 7 000 $.
Pour que tu joues au basket?
Oui. Oui, moi, je portais des souliers très chers.
Bon.
Mais ma mère, par contre,
Elle a
elle
investi.
paye tous les voyages. Tu comprends?
OK.
Elle paye tous les voyages. Comme si l'école me
bonne,
demande
hein?
125, moi, ma
Elle
mère,
paye.
elle faisait tout. Elle paye, puis il n'y a pas de truc. Mais c'est juste pour te faire comprendre que les parents investissent, mais n'ont même pas un suivi par rapport à l'argent qu'ils donnent à la fédération.
Elle ne savait même pas qu'il existait.
Mais moi, je savais qu'il y avait Team Québec. Team Québec, il
Mais
y
tu
avait
savais pas
l'équipe
qu'il y avait un organisme
qui
qui
s'occupait.
était gouvernemental.
Ouais, exactement.
Which brings me to my next point, Pat.
Exactement.
You
Ça,
coached
je-
for many years. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, you love seeing invested parents at the games. Or you didn't like seeing invested parents at the games.
I liked it. We didn't have many come
C'est
to
ça
our
que j'allais
Sunday
dire.
games.
And why? From a coach perspective, why did you like to see parents show up and being involved in the kids' life? Outside of the house, obviously.
Well, you just like to see them in an environment where they're comfortable, where the kids are happy, where they're having fun, and you like to see the potential that they have.
Yeah.
Now, it's like, to me, basketball, when they say basketball is life, basketball is a
It
part
really
of
is.
life.
Yeah.
And if you could see your kid having fun and you could see the passion, then you're going to back it up. And, hopefully you could use basketball to bring you to the next level.
That's
so
it.
For me, it was if we do a good job basketball-wise, they should be able to get into CJEP or university, and then life's going to be better.
Life is going to be
So
better.
I would like that. Unfortunately, during my time at Sun Youth, there wasn't a whole lot of parents coming around. But a lot of times they're a single parent, they're working.
Socio-demographics.
The
once again.
demographics were big. We had a parent, 11 kids, but she would make a point to go see at least one game a year for each kid. Now, that might not sound like a lot, one game, but
To her,
that means she
that's
went
a
to
lot.
11 games.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's
then
a full
she showed up
season.
other times too. And I mean,
That's impressive.
a kid between the legs,
Yeah.
a kid in
Yeah.
her arm.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a little
know.
secret. My mom had 10 kids.
Oh, there
Same
you
mom,
go.
same dad. My mom went to every single game that I've ever played, beside one.
And ATM.
Vanier.
And
Tu
ATM.
te
And it's-
rappelles,
and my-
tu te rappelles.
You know what? I used to be embarrassed. I used to tell my mom, "You're embarrassing me. You're the only one there." And my mom used to cry and tell me, "One day you're going to thank me." And you know what? When I signed my first contract in France, crying like a big baby, I remember, I'll never forget this. I remember telling her I loved her. My dad came to 4 games. My mom came to she had 10 kids. Like the story you're talking about, like a kid in the hair and all that. She came pregnant, like 8 months with 2 babies. And that's what they knew her as down at St-Laurent. Which brings me to my next question. As a coach, and I have tremendous respect for you, Pat, what do you think would be a great solution to get more Jessicas?
Yeah, more parents
our
involved.
Knowing what you know about the realities of these parents, the realities of these kids, because you've had kids that I'm sure are fucking sociopath as well, because I've played with sociopath. You've had kids that had probably bipolar problems, real mental health issues, but you still love them, you still cared for them, you still try to give them what they needed to become men, because that's what you're doing. You're building men.
Yeah.
And I've
people don't
never heard
realize this.
anyone said something bad
Ever.
about you.
No, Pat was a tough coach. He was a bulldog.
Everybody
but-
says that.
But you got out of there with love for the guy.
Exactly.
And that's important to me. That's the real important. What would you think is a solution? And then I want to hear Jessica's opinion on how could we get more parents that are marginalized, socioeconomically not doing as well, potentially single parents? How? What would be a solution in your mind?
I think communication is big. I think you got to make sure that they understand there's a schedule here. You have the schedule. Invite them out. Like, actually tell them we'd like to see you at the games. A lot of times you would ask the parent to come, but you knew they weren't coming. But also, like, I would make it a point if a parent came, like, to see them after the game, because you want to let them know that you want them back.
Yeah.
And if like, the
Value
game
their
happens.
presence.
Yeah, the game happens, and you want to talk to your team after, whether you won or whether you lost. So you want to take care of that, but you have to take the time to talk to the parents, so that they come back, and also they get to know you, so that they know where the investment is in their kids. So I think communication with the parents, making sure they know the schedule, inviting them, talking to them when they do come, even asking the kid, like, ask your parents to come, or ask your mom or your dad, or You know, it's...
Toi, Jessica, toi qui a été...
Comment on
t'as vu-
réplique?
C'est ça,
des
t'as vu à Trois-Rivières, tout le monde qui est là, mais comme
Ouais.
tu vois à Montréal, qu'il n'y a personne qui est là.
Ouais.
Comme, tu sais, c'est ça, je comprends la différence que un parent comme moi, comme Thierry, qui sont des anciens joueurs, c'est sûr et certain qu'on va être dans le gym. Mais comment qu'on attire les parents qui ne sont pas nécessairement, tu sais, celles qui ont voyagé,
Ouais.
qui ont émigré ici et leurs enfants jouent, qui ne connaissent pas nécessairement cette culture-là et tout. Comment qu'on va chercher ces parents?
Mais comme je te dis, moi, je trouve que honnêtement, dans les 10 dernières années, ça a beaucoup évolué. Là, j'en vois beaucoup
c'est
de
un bon
parents.
point.
Oui,
Ça,
c'est
c'est
vrai.
vraiment, c'est le fun à le voir.
C'est encourageant.
Oui, c'est encourageant, ça fait de la vie, tu sais, les parents. Puis, honnêtement, des fois, c'est juste de donner un T-shirt aux parents. Un T-shirt, un T-shirt
sens
que tu fais...
d'appartenance, dans le
Exactement.
fond.
Les parents, ils aiment ça. Ou venir saluer. Ah, bonjour, Madame Rivera, ça va bien? Merci de venir voir votre fille. Tu sais, il faut... C'est important d'aller chercher...
vrai.
ouais, comme avoir une interaction, pas sentir que le parent y est pas. Parce que moi, je connaissais rien au basket, là.
Le parent
Rien du tout, là.
fait partie du team.
Oui.
Impliquer le parent dans l'équipe.
Oui, mais ça, puis je peux...
Pas en tant que rôle, mais
C'est ça, oui, parce que je peux voir aussi Pat dire, yeah, but when they start coaching,
ça, c'est le 25 ans d'expérience. Yeah.
Pat's like,
I
yeah,
want
but-
them there, but be quiet, guys.
during
Ouais.
the game, you could cheer, but don't coach.
Oui, exact. Ça, c'est vrai, parce que moi, ma fille, elle marquait. Là, j'étais comme, Dalia, mais shoot, t'es libre. Non, il m'a dit de pas shooter. Puis là, là j'étais comme, ouais, c'est comme, OK,
Non,
t'as le
c'est
ballon,
ça.
tu dois shooter un 3 points. Mais
Il y a
non,
un
c'est pas
thin
ça.
line.
On a un jeu à faire.
I like what she said about the implication. So, merch.
Ouais,
Here's
juste
a
des petits
piece of merch. Or here's like, dans un monde de médias sociaux, what if you tell the parents to run a Sun Youth or Lucien Pagé?
La page médias
Parents,
sociaux,
yeah.
Oui.
I think this creates a sense d'appartenance, comme tu as dit,
Exactement.
and engages you.
Oui.
And you feel engaged. Which brings me also to segue to Basketball Quebec. How can Basketball Quebec better engage their coaches? Because on ne peut pas dédouaner.
Non.
We can't leave. I'm going to read you just a brief segment of what Daniel Grimard, who's the P.D.G of Basketball Quebec, once again, le barreau des coachs au Québec, he said, avec Benoît Dutrizac, and I'm going to quote him.
Mais comme je vous ai dit, on a eu des signalements. OK. On a rencontré l'entraîneur. On a parlé avec lui. On lui a parlé de la situation. Nous, on a fait les premiers gestes en fonction des informations qu'on a reçues. Après, quand ça a continué dans les gymnases, quand ça a continué dans son gymnase, dans son école, il n'y a personne qui nous est venu et qui nous a dit « Hey, l'entraîneur, il lâche pas, puis il continue, puis ça s'est pas amélioré, puis il continue à agir de la même manière. »
Et vous, ça vous tentait pas de créer des liens avec les parents de ces joueuses-là pour garder un œil sur ce type-là? Sur la case?
Ça fait partie des choses que probablement qu'il aurait dû être fait autant.
Daniel Grimard a dit, basically, that at the end of the day, they gave us a complaint, we acted on it, but they didn't do any follow-ups. That's what he's saying. And he says, if it's happening in the gym, how do you want us to do anything? So he's
Ouais,
kind
il
of
s'est lavé la
washing
main.
his
Je l'ai
hands,
écouté, là.
which I think is embarrassing, in my opinion. I can't see anybody at the barreau saying, well, you know, somebody complained about this lawyer, we investigated, but then again, afterwards, when he's in court, or when he's doing whatever he's doing, and you should follow up. So, in your opinion, Pat, is this answer acceptable from somebody that is the boss of Basketball Quebec? So the answer, just to summarize it and paraphrasing what he's saying pretty much, and this is a huge platform. Benoit Dutrizac is one of the biggest francophone critique radio show in Quebec, in Canada, and he gave him hell. And I liked how he interviewed him. Like, dude, are you serious? These guys were going on trips to the Bahamas with these kids, and Basketball Quebec kept promoting this guy. This guy got promotion after promotion after promotion.
After parents actually complained about the way that he was speaking to players,
About psychological abuse,
Psychological-
according to him.
according to him,
He says he never got any.
after that, we put you as the head coach of the Quebec national team, the Quebec team. So it's like we're rewarding you
For bad behavior.
for bad behavior.
What's your opinion on that, Pat? And I'll take the same from Jessica afterwards.
Yeah, I would think you have to, if you're the head of an organization, you have to hear what's going on the bench and in practices. You have to see it for yourself, and for sure you have to evaluate: is it appropriate or is it not appropriate? There has to be follow-up. There has to be meetings. There has to be
absolutely a plan d'action. There has to be a how do you say plan d'action in English?
Action plan.
Like I met you this day. Any job would do that. I met you this day. This is the entity that gives levels of coaching to people.
That teach you. You have to
but
pay them.
Won't teach you how to be. See, Pat is smirking. For those of you listening, he's smirking because he has an opinion about that as well.
Well, I don't have any levels.
You're kidding me.
I'm not even surprised. I'm not even surprised.
Wait. This is a golden moment on Technical.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
You don't have any levels.
Actually, I knew. I knew.
So, because when I played university, the last year that I played, other players who played before me automatically didn't have to do level 1 or 2.
Good for you.
Because of their background.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, what are you going to teach me that I don't know about basketball?
Well, just to me, level 1 is something where if you've played university basketball, you know it pretty much.
Yeah.
So when they were allowing other people a year older than me to skip level 1 and 2 and start at level 3, I just felt that, it's a weekend. It's a lot of time.
Exactly. Yeah. You go there, you get trained, you pay, and then they give you a certification. But so just to go back to this, the entity is supposed to look out for these people, and he's saying that once we got a complaint about the moral abuse, we talked to him, but then we never followed up.
Because it's in the school.
We can all agree that this is messed up. Yeah. Meaning, like, no, that doesn't make any sense, right? But I'd love to hear you touch on this, since you did touch on Sun Youth eventually became its own Quebec team, mainly Anglophone, a couple of Francophone. But Basketball Quebec, it's as if there was like a scission. You guys kind of split, right? But he said a good point, Edlin. You're still overseen by Basketball Quebec. Should Basketball Quebec, the director of Basketball Quebec, not have dug more into what turns out to be from 2004? Now it's coming out. They're saying 2018, but now they're saying it might have gone back to all the way 2004 to 2018. So the numbers are shifting. It was 2008 to 2014. Now they're saying 2004 to 2018.
No, till today. Now it's a 20-year span.
Moi, je dirais que c'est
ça continue jusqu'à il y a comme 3 mois.
Sûrement, ils ont juste pris plus de recul.
Moi, des messages que j'ai reçus, je ne vais pas nommer le nom, mais c'est des sources sûres. Mais il y a des filles qui sont dans la NCAA présentement, qui se préparent à rentrer dans le tournament.
Qui ont subi de l'abus.
Qui ont subi de l'abus, là. Il y a des filles qui sont présentement en train de jouer CIS, qui ont subi de l'abus.
C'est quoi CIS pour ceux qui savent?
C'est la Ligue canadienne de basketball universitaire. Ouais. Il y a des filles qui sont même plus vieilles que ça. Des femmes qui sont plus vieilles que ça. Et ça, c'est sans compter que avant de travailler à Express, et même pendant, il était à Montmorency, là. Ouais. Il faut comprendre que Express, pendant un temps, était un pipeline pour Montmorency.
Comme Sun Youth pour Vanier.
Exactement. Ouais. Donc, il faut comprendre la continuité aussi, là. Tu sais, tu t'assures que tu as une fille, tant que je la garde sur une certaine ligne, je peux m'assurer de garder le contrôle sur qu'est-ce qu'elle peut dire aussi, là.
Ça semble être une culture d'abus.
Bon.
It feels like a culture and a pipeline. And Marois Risky, who's an MP, spoke publicly about it. Puis elle a dit quelque chose de puissant. She touched on this. Elle a dit, ils sont allés jusqu'à dire qu'une joueuse avait des problèmes de consommation.
Ouais.
Ils ont même essayé de nuire à la réputation lorsqu'elle a changé d'équipe. Donc, c'est comme si la fille de Jess is leaving the team of l'Express. These guys had a culture of abuse that was so deep, physical, sexual, now we know, and moral, that they would contact the coach and say, well, be careful with her daughter. She's a drunk. She drinks. She takes drugs. And these are things that an MP, an elected official, touched on. And in her opinion, she said this publicly, that if Daniel Grimard was not aware, maybe he's outside of his scope of what he needs to do. Maybe he doesn't fully understand his role. What's both of your opinion? What's your opinion, Jess? C'est quoi ton opinion par rapport à Daniel Grimard qui un peu essaie de se dédouaner,
se lave les mains,
de dire ben là c'est pas de notre faute. Toi, en tant que parent.
J'ai écouté l'entrevue, tu sais.
Tu l'as écouté, ok,
oui,
good.
Je l'ai écouté, puis tu le vois comment il bégaye. Puis
oui.
Non, lui, comme il doit démissionner là, il fait pas son rôle. Tu sais, à un moment donné, on dirait que tu donnes. Lui, il doit protéger promouvoir le basket, protéger les joueurs. C'est son rôle. Là.
C'est son rôle.
C'est les deux. Mais là, on dirait qu'il a juste pris le côté des coachs puis de gagner des victoires.
Oui.
Et c'est ça le problème, c'est que je trouve que maintenant, c'est juste les victoires. Mais qu'est-ce qu'on disait de Dan? Tu l'entendais crier dans un gym, tu l'entends crier comme un malade, puis tout le monde... Ah, ben il est comme ça. Mais il amène les filles aux States. C'est tout le temps
On
les
priorise
phrases.
la victoire versus l'humain.
Exactement. Puis tu lui donnes beaucoup... c'est la faute un peu de tout le monde, je pense. On ne savait pas qu'est-ce qu'il faisait derrière, mais de lui donner autant de pouvoir. Parce que c'est tout le monde qui... Ah, mais Dan a les contacts. Dan, il connaît comment te faire aller aux États-Unis. Dan a coaché partout. Dan a coaché Team Québec. Dan était responsable de je ne sais pas trop quoi. Ils lui ont donné un prix.
L'espoir, en fait. L'espoir qu'avec cet homme, ta fille, ton enfant, cette joueuse...
Va arriver à quelque chose.
Va arriver à un niveau... Comme nous, on était avec Son Youth. La seule différence, c'est que Son Youth was delivering without touching you. Tu comprends ce que je veux dire?
Ben, Henry was touching, but the rest of the people were
Moi, j'ai connu vraiment l'ère de Pat. J'ai connu Henry après, parce que quand il a commencé à Brookwood. Fait que moi, mon image de Son Youth, c'est Pat. Tu comprends ce que je veux dire?
Parce qu'il est allé à Son Youth, à Brookwood après?
Yo, il a commencé à... Ben oui.
I didn't know that.
Moi, j'allais à Parquet, je faisais mes drills.
Parquet, ça, je me rappelle. Il est allé à Parquet
Brookwood
après.
Élite, ma bad. Pas Brookwood, Brookwood Élite.
Élite,
Puis
ok.
ça, c'est à Parquet.
Ok.
So, il est allé là au début. Puis c'est lui qui faisait les drills avec nous. Tu mets le ballon ici, puis tu shoots. Ça, c'était lui, tu comprends? Mais quand je regarde Son Youth, c'était Pat. Puis back then, moi, quand je suis rentré au cégep, si tu veux... Je suis au cégep, là. Si tu veux jouer au State ou whatever... You try out for the Son Youth summer team.
Son Youth was it.
That was
I got
Son
my
Youth.
first
Tu
offer
comprends?
after Son Youth.
So, moi, je peux comprendre un parent, puis dis-toi, là, puis ça, c'est des sources sûres. Il y a des parents que, Dan a parlé, qui les fait comprendre que vous ne pouvez pas le payer l'université pour votre enfant.
Il disait ça.
Comprends, là, comme, je ne suis pas obligé de te dire que tu ne peux pas payer l'université.
Tu le sais.
Mais je vais te parler d'une façon pour te faire comprendre ce que j'offre à ta fille, tu ne pourras jamais te l'offrir.
Ouais.
Tu comprends?
Ouais.
Ce que les expériences qu'elle vit, elle ne pourra jamais les avoir.
Oui.
Là, maintenant, il faut comprendre. Excuse-moi de rentrer dans le truc de race.
Non.
Mais quand tu rentres dans une maison d'une mère monoparentale,
C'est excusable,
noire, latina ou quoi que ce soit, tu comprends? Cette madame-là ne connaît pas ton background story, mais elle voit un grand blanc coach francophone, mais tu sais que sa femme est noire. Qu'est-ce que tu te dis? Si sa femme est noire, elle ne va pas prendre n'importe quoi.
Ouais.
Cet homme a certaines valeurs.
Très bon point.
Cet homme a une certaine façon de move. Cet homme a certaines choses qui viennent mettre les parents en confiance automatiquement.
Ouais.
Donc maintenant, là,
Bon point.
toi qui es infirmière, je te prends un exemple parce que ma mère est infirmière. Ma mère est infirmière, elle dit, you know what? Lundi, je voulais aller voir la game de mon fils puis finir à 3h30. Mais tu sais, il est entre les mains de Daniel. Je trust Daniel.
Yeah.
I believe in Daniel. Pour le bien de mon enfant, I'm gonna work double pour être sûr que je vais pouvoir payer whatever it needs
Très bon point.
to have parce que je sais qu'il est avec Daniel.
Très bon point.
Tu comprends ce que je
Et
veux dire?
Daniel, c'est un winner.
Et Daniel, c'est un winner.
Ouais.
Daniel envoie ma fille là-bas. Là, maintenant, moi, je veux que mon enfant aille aux States. Je vais voir une game, je n'ai pas aimé comment Daniel l'a crié. Daniel, j'aime pas comment tu parles à ma fille. Aux États-Unis, c'est tough. Ils vont la coacher comme ça. Tu ne seras pas là pour dire quoi que ce soit. Moi, je la prépare pour aller au prochain niveau. Regarde qui que j'ai envoyé. Ce parent qui ne connaît
Shuts his
pas
mouth. Automatically
automatiquement,
shuts up. Yeah.
je vais te servir. Le parent qui ne sait pas te sert son enfant sur un plateau d'argent là.
Deliver him.
Et je
Take him.
blâme pas le parent.
Non.
C'est
C'est un très, très bon point. que tu
c'est une
amènes.
réalité là.
Très, très bon point. And Pat, in that sense, do you think maybe coaches sometimes their responsibility goes beyond, which is my point. Like, I'm not shocked that you don't need the levels from
No.
Basketball Quebec to tell you could coach. But do you think Basketball Quebec should take an angle more about the human relationships? Meaning, like, okay, I'm a good basketball coach. I've played basketball, but maybe I'm a terrible human being, right? Like, the example is Daniel Lacasse. I played against him. He was not a good basketball. Like, to be honest with you today, you would have told me Charles Fortier did that. I'm like, no way.
No way.
You would have told me Philippe Langlois would have done that?
No way.
Like, you would have told me a leader, a great basketball. I'm not saying they can't. Because I think there's a lot of people in Quebec right now. If this Me Too movement starts, I'm not going to name nobody, but there's a whole lot of people going to get in trouble. So it's not about being good or bad, but what I'm saying is, and I'm not trying to excuse
Their
Daniel
character as players.
Voilà. He was a victim. He was a bullied victim. He had no personality. He was not a leader. He was the kind of follower that, hey, we're drinking. We're saying fuck the coach. We're saying this. So he was a loser, ultimately. And then he took the abuse that I guess he felt, and he became a maniac, a narcissistic maniac. That meant, a little bit like some police officers who should not hold a gun, in my opinion, should have never held a basketball gun. Do you think that Basketball Quebec should look more at the psychological side, not the basketball side? Guys like you could coach. There's tremendous. I think I could coach. I would never dare to go take these stupid classes. And if they insulted me enough to do so, I think I would start my own program or team and let them take me to court.
Well,
or something.
that's what happened with with La Ligue Civile.
Yeah, but to my point, do you think they should emphasize more on the non-basketball aspect instead of focusing on making money with the basketball aspect of come on the weekend and give us money and we're going to give you levels to coach out there?
A lot of things are running through my mind right now. One of the things that pops up
Go ahead.
is what they did in the States. Anybody used to be able to coach in the States in the summer. And you had a lot of dirt there because there was coaches who were holding
Pimps.
players, pimps,
100%.
coaches who were saying, I remember there's one coach that said, if you want my player, you have to give me a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
or I'm going to another tournament.
I remember that.
So that's one example. But what they did in the States is that they started doing background checks. And to coach AAU basketball, you actually had to have a background check without a criminal record.
That's
This
a clear solution
this
right
is
there. That's a good
well, this
step.
is something
We have
that,
that too here.
Does Basketball Quebec do that?
Yeah.
but
They
this
do?
is
Okay.
something
The
that
school does it.
No, I'm talking about Basketball Quebec. This
but
is
this is something that the NCAA did to control the coaches.
Yes.
Now you would still get, like, you would go into a tournament, all you needed was a band.
Yeah.
So then the coach who was the dirty coach
Yeah.
would just take the band off the other guy, tape it, and
No.
then it
was
it's
that easy.
there was
that
still
easy.
there was still some way to get around it, and that's what predators do. They find a way to
Correct.
They
get
would put
around
programs
things.
under other people's name and then get
Right, but what I'm getting at is there is a way, at least, like, this is a first step. They did this, and as you're saying, there should be follow up. So you have to find out, okay, what's the background of the person? Is the background clean? If the background's clean, there still should be follow ups with the coaches or
100%.
with, you know, what's the problem with having exit interviews with the players of the Quebec team or the players
Yeah.
of a high school team and find out, you know, like, is everything cool with you and the coach? And, you know, I mean, if you're not doing anything wrong as a coach, you don't have a
You
problem.
have
Yeah.
no problem.
You
Exactly.
know, like with me, I swear a lot. I don't in my high school where I coach, but when I coached at Sun Youth, I would swear quite a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. We
and that's
remember.
when we connected to you.
yeah,
Actually. Like, that's like us.
I don't a whole lot outside, which probably surprises you because you, I think you were expecting it more. But no, I think there's levels that you have to go through, and I don't know. Like, I see the Quebec program as responsible for the Quebec team, but now you have RSEQ. They're taking
Yeah.
over everything, so they're ahead of.
Is it?
Well,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
RSEQ takes all the stats for GMA.
RSEQ is over
Whenever
Basketball
we
Quebec.
podcast, guys, we have to act like the audience has no clue what you're talking about.
Sure.
What's RSCQ?
La
RSEQ, I believe, is the
Réseau des sports étudiants québécois.
To Quebec. And-
RSEQ.
and I think they oversee all the
Yes.
sports in Quebec.
So then it would be RSCQ, according to what you're telling me, and then Basketball Quebec would be under that umbrella.
That I'm not.
C'est
That
pas-
I'm
I
not sure.
think it's
C'est
Sport
pas comme
Québec.
civil puis scolaire.
C'est ça que moi, je pense.
C'est ça.
C'est scolaire, puis
Exact.
Ligue de Québec, c'est civil.
C'est
C'est ça.
civil.
Sport
Je
Québec.
pense que tu as raison.
Sport Québec régit tout le monde.
Oui. Sport Québec, c'est en haut de
En
tous
haut
les
de
sports.
tout le monde. Par la suite,
Badminton, tout.
exactement. RSEQ, sport scolaire étudiant dans les écoles.
Donc ça, elle a raison. C'est le côté scolaire.
C'est le côté scolaire.
Donc Sun Youth n'a rien à voir avec la RSEQ.
Exactement. La MBL rentre pas dans la RSEQ.
Voilà. La MBL a été créée et la MBL est régie par Basketball Québec.
Exactement.
OK, good.
Là, maintenant, moi, là, il y a une affaire que depuis tout à l'heure qu'on parle. Avant de trop rentrer dans Basketball Québec, il faut comprendre un truc. Pat, you were able to notice that something was going on with players on your team
Because he was close to them. They
because he
trusted him.
paid attention.
There you go.
He was doing due diligence. not only on the basketball side, but on the psychological side, on social, and not necessarily because he put the emphasis in that. It was just you, right? So you're in the gym, there's kids around you, they're joking about something, they're around you, so you're paying attention to what they're doing. Am I wrong?
No, you're right in that case, yeah.
In that sense, right. So I'm coming to that point just to say that if you're Basketball Quebec, you have many organizations under you, many teams under you. The same way Pat was aware of what his player was doing, we're doing, Basketball Quebec should also try to find a way to be aware of what's going on in their schools, their organization, their teams.
To that point, Edley raised a good point. Here's the excuse that Basketball Quebec is going to come up with, which I could clearly say, because I know my fair share of politics, right? Because now we're getting into the politics, because that's another question I want to hear from y'all. What do you think the role of politics should be in this? Basketball Quebec is going to say we don't have enough resources. On n'a pas assez de ressources. Toutes nos taxes payent pour Basketball Québec. Ça serait peut-être bon de... Ça sort pas?
No, that's okay.
OK. So, toutes nos ressources, je vais reprendre du... on va rentrer dans la politique. Toutes nos ressources, toutes nos taxes payent pour Basketball Québec. Ma question à vous, c'est est-ce que vous pensez que Basketball Québec a réellement besoin de plus de ressources pour faire qu'est-ce qu'on propose? Des spot checks, des action plans, des campagnes de sensibilisation pour que les parents soient plus impliqués aussi dans la vie de leur... Moi, je pense que ça c'est une discussion. Est-ce que vous pensez qu'ils ont besoin de plus de ressources? Oui ou non? C'est une question oui ou non? Parce qu'après ça, j'ai un second point à vous faire. Pat, do you think they need more resources?
I know you said yes or no, but I would say I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Jess?
Je dirais oui.
Tu dirais oui. Parfait. Now,
Je
if
peux
they
avoir-
need
je peux
more
avoir une
resources,
réponse?
watch. Okay, yeah, I'd like to hear
I
you.
would say no.
You would say no? Okay, let me go around. If they need more resources, it just came out that Daniel Grimard initially said in the news to Benoit Dutrizac, we had a complaint on Daniel Lacasse, we addressed it, we never had any other news afterwards. Benoit Dutrizac pushed back and said, were you aware about the sexual stuff? He said no. Then he did a second interview following the fact that he hired a PR firm. So if they need more resources, how come you have money to hire PR firms?
C'est mes taxes.
And these PR firms, once again, they're expensive. We're talking about $5, $10, $15, $20,000 retainer. And whoever says PR says politics. Because now the answers are not going to be organic, they're going to be politics. So if you need more resources, why are you hiring a PR firm? You should just come out and say the truth. Because the second answer on a second interview was that he had never. They had never received a complaint.
Le lendemain à la presse,
Ah, ouais.
le lendemain à la presse, il s'est rétracté et même la presse l'écrit. La presse dit qu'est-ce qu'il a dit à Dutrizac
Elle lui dit qu'il a dit que...
et par la suite, il se rétracte et dit que non, il n'a jamais reçu ce genre de plainte.
Quelles sont vos réactions sur ça? What's your reaction on these things? When you hear something like that from a director who answers one way pre-PR press hiring, kind of implies that there's lack of resources, and then hires a PR firm, and we're not talking about
Less
small
than 12
media.
hours after.
We're talking about La Presse, goes back on what he said and said they never heard of it. What's your reaction? Both of you, whoever wants to go.
Ben là, c'est sûr qu'il ment. Là. On lui a dit quoi dire. Mais il était trop tard. Il avait déjà dit, c'est sa voix qu'on entend. Il est en live.
Ou en live.
Puis ça se promène partout. Là.
Ouais. Est-ce que tu penses qu'il a été coaché?
Ben oui.
L'organisme qui regarde les coachs a été coaché pour sa
Ouais,
réponse?
c'est sûr.
Pat, what about you?
Yeah, it looks like he needs protection. It's almost when you say
That's a great word.
I need a lawyer.
Protection, yeah.
It's like I want my lawyer
I want
present
my lawyer.
before I answer any questions.
That's it.
I mean,
Are you okay with this as a tax-paying Quebecer, knowing that an entity that represents something you love, which is basketball, let alone you pay taxes for, maybe 10 cents of your taxes or $1 or $2 went to that organization. Are you okay with them hiring a PR firm?
it's kind of strange. It's a bit
Problematic.
strange to me. I don't know.
Did Sun Youth hire a PR firm?
No, at no point. No.
But think about this. And Henry Wong, I believe, Henry had been abusing kids for years.
Yeah, me too.
I honestly believe that. To the point that, because you have to think about something. I played for Henry in 1998, 99.
T'es vieux en titi, toi.
Dieu, moi. I'm old as fuck. You found out about it in 2000. By the time I found out about this, yeah, because I went to Europe right afterwards. Yeah. So exactly, my timing is good, right? Because 2001 was the plane crash. So you found out about it in 2000. I found out about it because of what he did to me, which I'll share after because I think it's going to be important that it's on the record on Technical Foul Podcast. I know for a fact he had been abusing kids at least 4 or 5 years before, because I'm not going to name who, but one of the leader at Vanier said he never tried that fuckery with me, but I know he's been doing this at Sun Youth for a while. And that to me was shocking, because I was like, there's no way. But I love what you said about Earl 7 days after firing him, because it kind of changes my paradigms on Sun Youth had been protecting him for years. I just think Henry was a lot more calculated.
Well, that's the thing when you're dealing with a predator. You know, like let's say that one of the top predators is a tiger. Mm-hmm. They say you never
hunt in the ocean.
You never see a tiger.
No,
They
They
hide.
hide. Yeah.
Right. So like this,
That's going to be a
this
soundbite.
this is a problem because predators, they don't bring it up in the open. Like nothing was ever said by him to a kid in front of me. Go to my house
Ever.
or watch a game ever. So there was obviously conversations happening that I had nothing to do with that I didn't hear. And this almost was like a slip up because once the kids said what they said, they wanted to take it back. I guess because they knew then,
It was wrong.
no more shoes, no more whatever else that they were getting. And
No, but maybe
They would lose their perks. Yeah.
Maybe he went from foot fetish to sexual fetish, which damns. Let's put things in perspective.
But foot fetish is already a sexual fetish.
No, but hold on. I'm trying to put things in perspective. For I haven't been through it with the guy. If the guy says, Terry, let me see. I'll give context. Okay, you want
Yeah.
I'll give context because I went through it.
Yeah, go
Henry
ahead.
used to coach me at Vanier. I never played for Henry at Sun Youth. I played for Pat Sullivan. Greatest experiment I got. Pat might not even know this. I got my first offers from Northeastern, Boston U, and eventually Stetson, as well as a couple of other college, Akron University as well, from playing for you. So I never played for Henry. Henry recruited me at the age of 16 out of Lucien Pagé. Henry noticed my mom was at the games all the time. And I think he said, this guy has an involved mom. Might not be the best, I might be going in the ocean and I'm a tiger. I want to stay in the jungle, right? Tigers are not going to hunt necessarily an elephant that's with his mom. They're going to go after the injured one, and
lonely
the
one,
vulnerable one,
yeah.
right? That's the greatest analogy we could go for. So Henry Wong sizes me, recruits me. Back at Vanier, I had a girlfriend. Henry used to wait for the days that my girlfriend was not waiting for me after school and always offer me, hey, do you need a lift back home? A couple of times, I'm like, I live in Saint-Michel, Hochelaga, Maisonneuve, on the border of Saint-Michel, Hochelaga. If you go to St-Laurent, that's an hour going, an hour coming back. So you want to talk about vulnerability? Vulnerability number one. Mobility was my first vulnerability. Vulnerability number two, he sees that, his girlfriend or whoever's there, because I never told him it's my girlfriend, is not around, right? Vulnerability number three, he knew I had 9 brothers and sisters. His mom maybe comes to the game but doesn't have time to take care of him. Vulnerability number 4, Terry doesn't have new shoes. Terry doesn't have money.
Finances.
Right? So he sizes me, isolates me, because then he would say, stay after practice, you need to shoot. That's my first year. I'm going right behind Sean Peters. Shout out to Sean Peters, one of the best guards to ever play basketball in Montreal. And I'm playing, but I'm not playing like I think I should. Because in practice, I love Sean, but it's me and Sean. And Lunds once in a while. But Lunds was injured back then. But overall, it's me and Sean and a guy named Jordan, Australian guy, great basketball player, 6'7". And Henry says, well, you need to shoot. I need you to shoot more. So he would keep me after practice, isolate me even more, because by then my boy Lunds was my best friend of all time.
Would leave.
Sean wouldn't stick around. Everybody's going home. Nobody has cars except Casio Bino. Shout out to Casio. Casio West Island, one of the best small power forward, 6-foot power forward ever. Long story short, isolates me more, eventually offers me a lift. I go, he drops me home. puts me in confidence. Do you want to lift again? Drops me home. Do you want to lift again? Drops me home. After 3 or 4 months of giving me rides home, eventually says, hey, before I drop you home, you live next to the plateau. I got to go pick up shoes and gear at Sun Youth. You see the setup? He goes to Sun Youth, comes back with, I've never seen so many Nike shoes in my life. Pat. And you guys were sponsored by Nike when nobody was sponsored by nobody. You walked into Sun Youth, you touched on it, Jess. You walked into the Sun Youth gym, you felt the ancestors of basketball legend, like walking in the gym.
There's
You
like
could
an aura.
There's an aura. There's the Nike sign, and there's the Ornette, and you've been there. And he walks in. He tells me, wait in the car. He comes back. That was the first time. Comes back with a big bag full of shoes and merch and all that stuff. Then he says, I need to drop those off at my house. I don't even think 2 seconds of nothing, right? Then he goes, hey, while we're at the house, you're helping me drop off all these shoes. Do you need a pair or two? I'm poor. Of course I need a goddamn pair. What are you talking about? And ask me, a chocolate lover, if he loves chocolate? Of course I fucking love chocolate. What are you talking about, right? Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. And I don't think I'm a thug, but I've never had I never shut my mouth. I was pretty loud on the basketball court. I grew up in certain conditions where if we had to fight,
You
we
trash
fought.
talk. You trash
I
talk.
trash talk. and I'm a vocal person. I don't think I had the personality that he was targeting, but he was trying. He was, you know, when the tiger tries and swings at you and says, hey, let's see if he bleeds. Can he get up
He
and
gets
run?
a too big prey.
There you go. So he's trying to see, hey, can I pray on this one? Then he tells me, help me bring the shoes in. I'm like, all right, I'm bringing the shoes in, and you could pick a pair. So he has, like, you guys had, like, everything. Hoodies, merch, tracksuits, I remember. I was excited. I'm like, yo, I'm going to get some stuff out of this guy, right? And back then, when you were a young, marginalized youth, as much as you respected your coach, you were always proud if you got a meal out of your coach. Every kid has been there. Yeah.
You're trying to get it, actually.
You're trying to get it from your coach, right? So I get in the house. I help him bring all the stuff. There must have been at least $1,000 of merchandise from shoes and all that stuff. Home shoes, white shoes, away shoes, black shoes. You guys had it all at Sun Youth. I'm helping him empty his car. We're at his house. Then he goes, we have a game. Why don't you stay to watch some game footage? And I was a big student of the game. I loved watching footage, just not with a
40-year-old man, yeah.
40. He was like 50, overweight, like stinky. I'm not trying to body shame the guy. The guy was despicable, right? Chinese guy. I get inside his house, sit on his couch. He's like, all right, footage. I'm like, yeah, but I got to wake up early tomorrow. He starts to play the footage, and then he says, what size do you wear?
This is exclusive stuff at Technical Foul Podcast.
I'm sharing
guys.
my truth. I don't give a shit. He goes, this is true. This is not, I don't care. Anybody accusing me of this not happening, I know it happened. And what I know to be a fact today, and Pat probably heard similar stories, my story must have happened 100 to 200 to 300 times at his house, right? He gets out of his room. His house is disgusting, first and foremost. There's like pizza stuff everywhere. There's dirty stuff everywhere. It was a disgusting house. I lived in a house with 12 human beings. I'd never seen a despicable, like, it was a porcherie.
Oh, wow, okay.
Like a pig. It was disgusting. He gets to he's moving stuff off the couch, sitting on the couch. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to watch like some footage. We had watched like game footage before at Vanier. I'm like, I'm going to watch some footage. That's it. What's your shoe size? Okay, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm like, yo, I'm going to get some shoes out of this. I don't have a cell phone back then. Nobody has a cell phone to film. He goes in the back, comes back with 5-6 pairs of shoes. You want to see how sneaky he is? And that's the predator real behavior. He comes back with a shoe size that's too big for me. Because right before he
So
said,
you keep on chiming them all.
what size of shoes do you have? I go 10 and a half, but I can't go above that. He comes back with a size 9. Knowing, watch this. You want to see how the guy was a dirty predator pedophile. He tells me they might fit you because somebody else, Sean or somebody else on the team, they fit him. take off your socks.
They'll,
This is a true story.
they'll fit without the socks.
Like, I'm like, yeah, you dummy, but I'm not even thinking anything at that point because nobody had ever talked about this. But I'm thinking to myself, this guy really wants me. And then I said, yeah, but Henry, I can't play without socks. It's like, don't worry. That's how we talk. Don't worry, Terry, just take off your socks. I'm like, all right. I take off my socks. I'm not thinking nothing.
You're getting new shoes, bro.
No.
The elephant with no mother around that might have, he's thinking, you know what, I got this. I could do this. I'm taking off my socks, and then I go to put the shoe, but then I was like, Henry, I'm not going to play without socks. I told you I don't want, give me 10. Then he has the other 10. Then I put that 10 shoe on, but then I put my socks on. And then he goes, no, don't put your socks on. And then I'm like, that's when I'm like, whoa, something's up. Something's not fucking right now. And I swear to you, my body just went like this. Like I was like, okay, I'm on the couch. There's a video paused. This fucking guy is there. He's telling me to take off. Then I'm like putting on my shoe and he gets a bit more
Rough.
but agitated. You know when you could tell somebody, if you've ever been in the streets, you know
Yeah,
when somebody's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be violent and you need to prepare your body. He's next to me and then he gets close to me and then he takes off his shirt and he has like a camisole. Like a fucking-
Wife beater.
Yeah. I'm like, this fucking dirty guy, what is he doing? And then I kind of brush him off and he's like, put your foot on my leg. I'm going to help you. And then I said, what? I said, what do you mean put your foot on? I said, Henry, what are you talking about? He said, just give me the shoes, take off your sock, put your foot on my leg. I said, are you out your fucking mind? What are you talking about? Stop being a pussy. Put your foot on my leg and I'll help you put your... That's when I said, Henry, I'm leaving. Not fucking putting my foot on your leg. What are you talking about? And then he gets up and I just had a reflex to punch him. And I punched him in his gut and I just left.
Get him away from
I
you.
got out, yeah. So to the point of the stories you've heard from these kids, it's almost as if he was gamifying the abuse. The gamification of the abuse, for me, is how predatorial and dangerously predatorial his behavior was. And the point I'm trying to say is, to your point, Pat, the kids that start crying, because if somebody would have told me the next day, I was a leader at Vanier. I got to the locker room, I was like, yo, can you fucking believe this guy tried to take my feet and was almost bare chest? And then guys that by then, I was the youngest guy, I was 16 years old. Guys are 17, 18, 19, even 20. I'm seeing who's like not comfortable. All the Sun Youth guys were not comfortable. I'm not saying they got touched. I'm not saying they got approached. I'm saying they were all uncomfortable.
It's not a crazy story for them.
Exactly. And then I see that 4 or 5 guys come out and say, he did that to me. He set me up. He tickled me. That's why I was like, tickle? So it became a running gag. Think about this. We joked about abuse. We were so oblivious to this that we started to joke about it. And I think, to be honest with you, Pat, the kids that looked at you and started crying, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I'm going to be very graphic, but Henry most likely went from touching their feet to
a
pulling
little
down
bit
their
further,
pants,
yeah.
I totally believe this because we grew up in a world where, around the time that we grew up in, it's not okay to have
speak
any
about
men
that,
touch
yeah.
any men. That's how I grew up,
Yeah,
and
me
that's how
too.
most of the people I grew up around. The one thing that would be the most embarrassing thing ever is if a caring coach that loves for you like a dad, like a big brother, which you fucking did, came up to me and said, did you get abused, without asking me if I got abused. That would make me cry.
Yep.
But
That
if
would
you
be
would've came-
insulting.
Insulting. If you would have came to me and asked me, I would have told you, fuck yeah, he did. This guy tried to touch, and I punched him in the stomach. Then you would have been like, okay, that's more ammunition for me. But
I
when
have a
saw
question on
ev-
that line.
Yeah, but just to finish up, when I saw that this was what he was doing with grown men, my fear was, what has he been doing with 12, 13, 14 years old? So that's why when you talked about I'm honest with you, I almost got teary-eyed because I was there. And I could think, what if I don't have a girlfriend? What if I'm not confident in myself? Does this guy pull out his penis and then next thing you know says, put your foot on my dick? And what do I do if I have no confidence in me? If nobody loves me? If my mom works
If you're not
night
you.
shift? Right? I stay there because one thing that happened after I punched him in his gut, I benched for the next 5 games. He gave me shoes. The next day, he gave me 2 pair of shoes, a full jumpsuit, kind of like, don't talk about this, you fucking predator. And he benched me afterwards. And I didn't know why.
For 5 games in college.
In CJEP,
In
which is
CJEP.
super important for you to
5
get your scholarship.
games.
And then we got to a game against Sherbrooke. I'll never forget this. We're going into overtime. Sean Peters said, yo, Henry, put Terry on. No. And then they got into a fight during a timeout. So I ended up playing overtime. And I scored like 12 points in overtime and had 5 assists and we won. But then afterwards, he had no choice to play me, right? So anyways, I wanted to share for the audience. I've never shared this publicly. I think it's important that people understand the context. And if I wasn't sexually abused, imagine what Dan Lacasse did to these girls. Robert, Xavier, and Henry, I'm sure. So anyways, I wanted to share this, Pat, because you courageously denounced this pedophile and somebody that I could call my abuser. I am comfortable saying this publicly.
It was.
My potential abuser, because I think it was abuse to put me even in that situation. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because I think you've saved lives. You saved people from killing themselves. Because I know that in my culture,
Seriously.
people would kill themselves.
Yeah, seriously. Moi, je veux te remercier personnellement d'avoir fait ce témoignage-là, honnêtement, là, à TechnicalFoulPodcast. J'étais pas au courant de ça. J'étais au courant de beaucoup de choses par rapport à Henry Wong. Je connais d'autres personnes personnellement, mais je savais pas que tu avais potentiellement été, moi, je veux dire victime. Tu t'es
100%.
défendu, mais je veux dire, tu as quand même été une victime. So, merci de partager ça ici.
Never told my parents. Never told my parents, never told my dad, never told my basketball dad, which was Pascal Jobin. I was ashamed, embarrassed, but I wanted to talk about it with my teammate because I wanted to find out if somebody else went
Somebody
through
else went through
this.
this.
And when I realized that 4 other of my teammates went through this, grown men, I was like, this is messed
On that
up.
same
Let
line,
him
yeah, no,
rebound.
but...
Let him rebound.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just where you're at now, it's like in this situation, no kid came forward. And like you're saying, did it happen for years? It was hidden from everybody for years, any adult. So it's like, how far back did it go? I mean, you have to imagine it went back for the longest time. But it's like one of those things where nobody knew. And any kid that did know didn't want to come forward.
Exactly.
Which, like, you're thanking me for coming forward, but it didn't happen to me. Like, let's say something happened to me, would I come forward? Like, this is a situation where somebody came forward who it didn't happen to, and it's tough. It's tough. Like, it came out later, 2 people came forward. But then, through talking to a bunch, for sure there had to be a bunch of people.
100%.
My question around that same line, it's the kids that, you remember at first when you heard the kids talking and you went to them and some of them did say, yes, he was tickling me.
It was a game. They would say it's a game.
That's what I want to ask you. The way those kids tried to portray what had happened to them, do you feel like they were trying to banalize it as much as they could? Make it feel like it's really nothing?
Well, after we reported it to Sun Youth and after he was gone from Sun Youth, you would talk to more people about it and you would find out that it was happening to more people.
Exactly.
But you didn't know to the extent.
What extent?
Right? Like one guy said to me who played a long time ago, older than me, said that we knew if we went to his house and we let him tickle our feet, we'd get shoes. They didn't mention anything sexual, but then they said that's what we knew between us.
Shoes for
Tickle equals shoes.
Between us, we knew. But obviously where the problem is that it went further than that. And that's where the different levels are. Do you know that the same thing happened? And like you're saying, Terry, like there's a line between tickling, which, if he's touching their feet, it's a fetish and it is sexually related, but then going to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that's
the threshold.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because some people, it happened to them to a certain point, and then whether they punched them or kicked them, and it didn't happen anymore. But then some people, it went further.
Yeah.
And that's still to this day, I don't know exactly how many people were actually brought to another level. And I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But with the girls in this situation, it's a similar situation where not a lot of people want to come forward with a story. If you're a girl, if you're a guy, if you're that age, you don't want to come forward and say things.
Yeah.
And it's tough because in this situation, after Sun Youth let go of Henry, he was still in the basketball community for 10 years.
Exactly.
10 years.
That's where I want you to go now. Like, what did you do? Because you fought for 10 years from
After he got fired. After the 7 days, he gets fired. For
Exactly.
St.
But
do you start to militantly like say this guy has to go?
Well, I didn't know if he was fired or not. I know he was let go. He wasn't working at Sun Youth. That's what I knew. I didn't know like whether it was a fire, whether it was an agreement. I don't know exactly what happened.
Okay.
But he wasn't at Sun Youth anymore, and he wasn't allowed to be at Sun Youth anymore.
Okay.
Sun Youth calls the police.
So they did call the police.
Yes, right away.
I didn't know that.
I called the police right away. So within 7 days, he's gone, and there's 2 reports to the police, one by Sun Youth and one by me.
Good.
And mine was separate. Like mine was separate. It was
Yeah.
just, I don't know how Sun Youth's handling. I know they got rid of him. I don't know if they're going to call the police.
But you said, I'm doing this as a citizen.
Well, working in a high school, to me, what I understand is if a kid comes in with a black eye and you don't report it, then you could lose your job.
Your silence is
So,
violence.
so to me, you have a responsibility as somebody working under an umbrella. So I was working in the school at that time, and my thoughts were that I have to report this to the police.
100%.
I know they let him go, but I feel the police has to investigate.
What do you mean they let him go? You know, Sun Youth.
No, I know Sun Youth. I know Sun Youth dismissed him from working at Sun Youth.
Correct.
Okay, I don't know exactly. I still don't know to this day.
Can you just turn? Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you file a complaint at Sun Youth. Sorry, Jesse. We're
No,
going to
no.
have you rebound on this, but I think it's so important because I think it's also it's a great segue towards we're nearing the end of the podcast, but it's a great segue to say now what does the system do when the system is aware of that abuse?
En même temps, c'est que Pat, quand on a parlé au téléphone, a expliqué des steps.
That's what I want you to do. I want you to
Yeah,
walk
it's
us
really
through the steps.
those steps are really important
For anybody
to know.
listening that might like, okay, I know something and I want to come out and now I want to know the steps. Because let's be real. The cops, anyways, I'll let you go.
Well, I reported to the police.
Yeah.
I had to do a written report.
Yeah.
Then he goes and coaches at another organization. Okay, so he goes and coaches somewhere else. He tries to get right back in the basketball community, doing workouts, hooking up with some type of team.
Yeah.
So as soon as I hear that he's working out with kids and he's with another team,
Yeah.
I call the police again. And I said
Twice. So when you first called them, what did they do? Do you know what they did or you have no clue?
Yes. Well, I knew after the second time. Because the second time I met with the police,
They followed up.
I said, what
have you done?
I'm calling because I don't know what happened, but I know he's with another organization
Yeah.
and he's working with kids. So the police said we did go to his house. We did question him. We did warn him not to do certain things. We told him not to have kids at his house. But, and here's the big but nobody's come forward. There's no person that has come forward as a witness. You said you don't even know. You said that, he did something with the kids. He had the kids alone at his house. There is touching with tickling, but you said you don't know 100%
So playing devil's
further.
advocate, not trying to protect the police by no way, shape, or form, it's understandable,
Yeah.
if I'm hearing what you're saying, that the police didn't necessarily push it further. Is that what you're saying?
It's understandable that
Because nobody came forward.
That's exactly-
You came.
that's exactly
you
what you're
denounced
saying.
It, but
They had nothing.
well, hold on. They had nothing in essence that, did they contact any of the kids or none of the kids came out? So it was just Sun Youth and a concerned citizen that says that this guy's tickling feet. That's what I'm
they
understanding.
told me that they don't have anybody coming forward.
So they can't interview or investigate further.
Well, I gave them names of people who could come forward, but would they want to? And as far as I know, nobody wanted to come
Makes
forward.
sense. Got you. Keep going.
So-
the second time you report him, you learn what they did.
Yes. So I have to tell people at the organization, the other organization,
Correct.
I don't know what happened 100%. But if Sun Youth got rid of him and if he left, right, he left the organization. So there's some type of admission
Of guilt.
of guilt
He
if he
should
left.
not be allowed to
right?
be around kids.
Yeah.
But now he's trying to go with the organization. I'm just letting you know. I don't know.
Yes.
So that's where I told Adeline on the side there that I said at one point, if he gets arrested and if he gets accused of something and gets in trouble, he has a certain
Yeah.
jail time maybe.
Correct.
But me, as a person reporting something that might not be 100% true because I don't know exactly what happened,
Yeah.
I could get a defamation of lawsuit,
100%.
defamation of character lawsuit against me. I could go to jail for longer than this guy
Than
would
this guy.
when I didn't do anything except try to.
Help the kids.
So it's tough when you have a
system is
predator
insane.
who's playing a game and nobody really knows what's going on.
Supported by the system.
Supported, well,
Yeah, supported. Because,
Yes.
Because like you said, playing a game, he's supported by the basketball system. Daniel Lacasse
Yeah,
was
the
supported.
basketball system,
Meaning,
yes.
if Jess comes out and says, this guy, this and that, we know for a fact today that a social worker at St-Laurent High School came out, was demonized by the school.
Ouais.
What are you talking about?
Bro,
They were pushed aside. So it's similar to this kind of behavior we see in corporate America.
Even parents.
Which is, why would we kill our biggest money maker? Like, what are you talking about? You're just jealous. Or what are you talking about? You're exaggerating. We downplay and demonize the whistleblowers. But I want to sorry, Pat, keep going because I think this is super interesting.
Well, he skipped to a few different organizations. So at some point, I don't know if it was the conversation that I
He
had
coached in Park X.
with someone. Well, I don't know. This wasn't about them, but the first place that he went to, I spoke to people. I don't know if it was my
Do you want to
conversation.
share where you went to? Or you don't want
There
to
were
talk?
different places, and I'm not sure the actual
It's okay.
timing.
It's okay.
But when I spoke to people and would tell them that he has done something, and I don't know exactly what it is, but he has touched kids, he has done certain things.
Yeah.
But I can't say 100% for sure. But
Yeah.
obviously, if he left, it's because, if he left a place he was at for 30 years and had the best teams and the best organization, something had to happen. Then maybe that's why they said, you know what, we can't have him around anymore. So was he asked to leave? I don't know. But then all of a sudden he's not there anymore. But then he surfaces somewhere else. And then he surfaces.
just
And you
pop
see
up
this, and you
everywhere.
see this often with predators where until they actually get
course.
caught,
Of course.
they just keep resurfacing in a comfortable environment. So
Catholic Church used to send them to different parishes, different
Exactly.
parts of America, different parts of the world.
Somewhere where they don't know you,
Yeah, they would
they
send them
don't
to
know your
Africa,
story.
all over Africa, all over
so
different countries.
10 years, 4 police reports. So I'm skipping
From you.
4 police reports from me.
And Basketball Quebec still has nothing to do regarding that drama. They're
Well, I
not
don't-
implicated. Nobody reached out to you or Sun Youth from Basketball Quebec to try to know.
Yeah, but Pat is talking about reporting it to the cops. He
Yes,
never reported
but
it to
there's a
Basketball.
coach. There's a coach in the province that an organization reported, made a report to
And
the
is
cops,
unaware. I see what you're saying. And they're not even aware.
and they're
But
not
That's-
even aware.
I think
that's-
I'm not sure if it's public information, though.
But that's where I'm getting to RSEQ, because RSEQ now, they have something that kids can report directly to them if they feel that their coach is
Got you.
Yes.
mistreating them. But yes, 4 times the police were contacted. Each time I had to write a report, and each time I gave them the information of who was working with, who he was with, and what was going on. And I really didn't know 100% what was going on.
Yeah.
But after the 4th report, I contacted Youth Protection, and I'm not sure.
Talk about this,
Yes,
please.
please.
I'm not sure exactly how they went about it, but they found
They made
people.
shit move.
So they might have looked at the original. They probably looked at all the reports.
That's exactly
They
it.
might have went through all the names, and
exactly
they
what
probably
they did.
kept knocking on doors until they got an answer. And that's probably how the
The
two people came forward.
DPG, as much as they have a lot of faults,
They have different
literally,
ways.
I think, ended up saving a lot of people.
Well, they must have got one of the 2 people to come forward,
Correct.
and then
Because
the other
they
person.
they harassed him. But you know what the DPG also has the power to do? They have the power to take away your kids. So if I contact, because I think you touched on an important solution here. If you want to really get L'Express, you want to take all these predators, maniacs, sociopaths out of L'Express, get the DPG involved. DPG is notoriously known to tell the parents, your kid don't want to talk. But if we find out that you knew and you didn't do nothing, I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm saying that would push me as a marginalized parent to say to my kid, did he do that? And if you start crying or tell me, my parents used to tell me, I'll whoop your butt. You wish you would have told me.
Yes, but there's
Right?
a risk. There's a
No,
risk.
no, I guarantee you they acted that way. Because think about what Pat's talking about. He went to people that are supposed to uphold the law, that have guns.
Yes.
4 times, nothing moved. And then he went to La DPG, and suddenly the man was,
That's why I wanted Pat here to explain that part.
but
that-
he doesn't know.
that
he just
process.
He did the complaint, and the next thing you know, it came out that
Yes.
But the second time I met with the police, they did tell me what they did the first time, but they didn't have the ammunition to go in there and.
There you go.
It
the
sounded.
DPG
It sounded.
DPG has.
It sounded like it was a threat to him. It was, don't do this anymore.
and he kept doing it because he's a
because
predator.
what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like what you don't know what I did. You came into my house and said, I know you touched kids, tickled them. That's what you did.
Yeah.
But we can't arrest
I'm
you
a
for that.
vampire. You
So-
never saw me suck blood. Yeah, exactly.
So that-
so then DPG gets involved. How much time after DPG gets involved until this blows out.
Well, that's when all of a sudden they have two witnesses. So they must have contacted some of the people.
They press charges.
And, well, two of them came forward, went to court, and he pled guilty to...
So basically,
Wait,
if
hold
right
on.
now,
He pled guilty. Sorry, Edline. He pled guilty. Did he get convicted?
He didn't go to jail,
There you go.
which bothers me because I thought
Big time.
it
he
should
got
have been a bigger
convicted but
sentence.
didn't go to jail.
But
But it
that's
was-
what I'm talking about. The system.
From what I understand, was 20 months of house arrest, which was cut in half. So we had 10 months of house arrest, and then you were allowed to
C'est
do
fou.
10
Yeah,
months
c'est
of
malade.
something else.
C'est fou.
C'est pour ça que c'est important qu'il y ait le plus de personnes possible qui come forward. Parce que justement, c'est pour ça que pour moi, c'était important que Pat vienne. Parce que Pat s'est personnellement battu pendant 10 ans contre ce prédateur-là pour que lui fasse de la prison et il n'a jamais fait
Non.
1 minute de prison.
Non. Si c'était du hockey, j'ai les stats, là, on va les sortir.
Oui,
on va
oui,
finir sur
mais-
ça. Si c'était du hockey, little rich white kids getting touched like this for 15, 20 years.
Et même là, j'ai les stats aussi.
Non, he would.
Il y en a qui passent dans les cracks.
But
Tu
which
comprends?
brings me to my next point. T'entends ça, toi, Jess, en tant que mère. Est-ce que ça te révolte pas d'entendre qu'un pédophile, prédateur sexuel, qui touchait des petits garçons noirs et bruns, que le gars a eu 10 mois? Ça veut dire qu'il a ruiné 300 vies, admettons. Il a touché leur sexualité, il a touché leurs insécurités, il les a fait sentir moins que rien, il les a fait sentir comme des jouets pour son plaisir sexuel. Et lui, il prend 10 mois. Il y a 300 vies là, qui sont traumatisées. On parle de santé mentale dans les communautés latino, noires, brunes, autochtones. Ça, c'est des triggering moments dans ta vie. Ces gens-là ont peut-être aussi une perversion de leur vie sexuelle, de leur sexualité à eux. Toi, en tant que mère, tu entends ça. Qu'est-ce que ça te dit du système par rapport à ce qui s'en vient pour les 3 prédateurs qui sont Daniel Lacasse, Robert et Xavier?
Ben, moi, honnêtement, je veux profiter de dire, parce que sûrement il y a des filles qui vont nous écouter, que c'est important parce que justement, le problème, c'est que les jeunes n'ont pas voulu dénoncer. Et ça prend. Il faut dénoncer. Plus tu t'en parles, il ne faut pas que tu aies peur parce que c'est pas toi qui. Toi, tu as été une victime. Les jeunes femmes, c'est été des victimes. C'est pas eux. Ils ne sont pas coupables de rien. Là. Ils ont cru à quelque chose, mais eux sont dans l'erreur. Puis eux, les filles, n'ont rien à voir. Il ne faut pas qu'ils pensent comme est-ce que moi, j'ai lancé un mauvais cri? Est-ce que moi, parce que peut-être j'ai fait une blague avec eux, peut-être parce que j'ai laissé qu'ils me touchent.
Est-ce que mes vêtements,
oui.
est-ce que whatever?
Pas du tout. Là. Les filles, là, il faut justement dénoncer. Plus on va avoir de personnes qui vont venir témoigner à la police, ou même, ils ne sont pas obligés de le mettre dans les réseaux, parce que maintenant, les réseaux sociaux, ça a beaucoup aidé, mais tu peux tout le temps t'envoyer des DM à toi ou à
à toi en tant que mère impliquée, à Pat.
N'importe qui peut t'écouter puis qui peut te faire le lien, comment procéder sans que ton nom vienne. Mais il faut dénoncer. Parce que moi, je suis sûre qu'il n'y a pas juste 2 filles. Là. Impossible. Pendant toutes ces années, 2 personnes, mais non.
Non, moi, je te
il y en a
confirme qu'il y a des
plein
photos, des
d'autres.
vidéos. Puis
Mais tout ça.
On devait avoir aujourd'hui, soi-disant passant, pour encore une fois les extra woke qui nous écoutent, là, puis qui disent que c'est 3 hommes qui parlent avec. Non, il y a eu des invitations. Il y avait 10 femmes qui étaient potentiellement, qui voulaient. Et Jessica, c'est la seule qui est venue aujourd'hui.
Ouais.
C'est pas un reproche à ceux qui ne sont pas venus.
Non, mais c'est que c'est la réalité. Quand tu regardes le email d'invitation,
Puis il y a eu des DM en plus. On a été très clair. On voulait donner la parole principalement à des femmes aussi, des mères, des victimes, des coachs. La relation de Pat dans tout ça, c'est que Pat est le dénonçateur. C'est lui qui a dénoncé. Selon moi, je le répète, la genèse de la permissibilité de Dan Lacasse de penser que il n'y a rien qui peut m'arriver.
c'est l'équipe derrière lui. C'est l'équipe derrière lui.
Non, c'est de voir que Henry Wong a eu 10 mois. Si Henry a eu 10 mois, parce que si Henry Wong de Sun Youth avait eu 5 ans de prison, and they're going to take care of his ass in jail. A guy like that, he's dealt with. He's done. You were touching little black and brown boys.
Tu rentres automatique sur protect.
Overweight, dirty dude, like you're dead. You're either going to kill yourself or you're going to be taken care of. The point I'm trying to say is, because the system didn't protect these young black boys and brown boys, a guy like Dan Lacasse, as a francophone white male, has all the reasons to believe that if they didn't do anything to this Chinese pedophile,
qu'est-ce qu'ils vont
what
faire
are
à
they
moi?
going to do to me?
Mais c'est pour ça.
I'm the coach I'm the coach for women basketball. I got Basketball Quebec in my pocket. I don't care what Daniel Grimard said. He knew he was problematic. Maybe not sexually problematic, but he knew he was problematic. They promote me.
Mais dans
Dan
tout
Lacasse
ça,
probably thought he ran Basketball Quebec to a certain extent. So it's like, what are they going to do to me? They can't take me down.
mais pour éviter ça, justement, pour éviter qu'un autre Daniel Wong puisse se reproduire, c'est vraiment pour ça que je trouve le point de Pat mettre l'accent, parce que notre communauté aussi, on se sent rarement confortable à parler à la police, à s'ouvrir à la police, autant
c'est
nos
vrai.
parents que nous.
très vrai.
Puis c'est pour ça que le point que Pat amène, tu sais, quand j'ai parlé au téléphone avec Pat m'a fait voir qu'à un moment donné, c'est la police qui l'a fait réaliser que, yo, if no one comes forward, there's absolutely nothing we can do. Puis là, présentement, qu'est-ce qui arrive? C'est que oui, tu vas avoir des accusations qui vont peut-être amener à certaines peines, mais est-ce que ce sont des peines d'emprisonnement qui vont l'empêcher de faire certaines
Il n'a même
choses?
pas fait de prison.
Tu comprends?
He had 10 months of house arrest.
Mais maintenant, c'est là que, si avec l'intervention de Pat, l'information que Pat vient de nous donner par rapport
Au step.
au step à
Oui.
prendre,
Oui.
à aller peut-être
DPJ,
à la
direct.
DPJ, à la place d'aller vers la police, moi, je crois que la DPJ ont des façons, ont des techniques.
Des pouvoirs.
Mais en fait, je ne crois pas. J'ai été me renseigner après que Pat m'a dit ça.
Ils ont des pouvoirs. Ouais,
Ils ont des techniques aussi moins intrusives pour pouvoir aller parler aux parents, parler aux jeunes.
Très bon point.
Et si l'événement s'est passé quand tu étais mineur, même si tu as 25 ans, c'est encore
quand même,
la DPJ
oui,
que tu peux
c'est le
voir
ressort
pour
de la
ça.
DPJ.
Donc,
Très bon
pour
point.
éviter qu'il y ait un autre Daniel Wong, moi, cet appel-là, je voulais vraiment que Pat puisse expliquer les difficultés qu'il a eues. Parce qu'il a dénoncé, oui, son youth l'a mis dehors, but then again, tu vas dans un autre gym, the guy's working again,
With
around kids. How frustrating is that? Tu
It's
comprends
like
ce
a
que je veux dire?
system within a system helping the predators, but not looking out for the prey. You want my opinion? Moving forward, Basketball Quebec should have an insurance and a fund. All sports. Because let's look at these final data. We've got 10 more minutes left, but watch this. A CBC interview, I got to share this with you because I thought it was insane. In 2019, a CBC article came out in a three-piece subject with 222 Canadian. They found out that 222 Canadian coaches were convicted of sexual abuse and over the past 20 years, from 1998 to 2018. The investigation of 2019. At the time of the investigation, 36 different sports were involved in the abuse. 222 Canadian coaches, plus 34 coaches that were going through trial. So not yet convicted, but at the time of the investigation, over 600 victims came forward below the age of 18.
Yes.
That is a lot. And if you do the math, that's about 3 victims per coaches. Because if you take 600 and divide it by 222, that's 3 victims per coaches. Those are the convicted ones, which touches on what Pat says. You could be charged, you could be convicted, but then what's the
Il n'y a pas de
conviction?
suite.
But what's the penalty?
C'est ça.
What's the incentive? If tomorrow I start to deal drug, they give me a hard amount of time to make sure I don't deal drug. But if I start to deal in pedophile behavior and material and touching people, touching the future of our province.
Tu dois donner une peine exemplaire.
Like,
Mais
come
oui.
on now.
Tu dois donner une peine que les gens savent. Si tu fais ça, je m'excuse, ça ne se passera pas. But une chose aussi, ça, ce n'est pas l'avocat du diable de la police que je veux faire, mais on est dans un domaine que c'est he said, she said d'une certaine façon. Moi, je me dis, présentement, là, quelle est l'utilité à envoyer des photos, soit à Kevin Calix, soit à Thierry, soit à moi, si ces mêmes photos ne sont pas acheminées à la police ou à la DPJ, pour pouvoir vraiment être utilisées contre ces prédateurs-là.
Et pour renchérir sur ce que tu dis, les données sont... Puis
Vas-y,
Edlin
oui,
va le
vas-y,
mettre à
vas-y.
l'écran. Sur les 222 coachs qui ont été convicted, 9 étaient des femmes, 213 étaient des hommes. That speaks to a bigger problem, right? Because now we're talking about what is going on. Daniel Grimard said qu'il n'aurait jamais dû coacher sans une femme, une présence féminine comme coach. He said that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in the rule? And if it's in the rule, how come you didn't enforce it? You're Basketball Quebec. So 213 convictions are male, 9 are women.
Tu veux que je t'appuie ton point?
Vas-y.
Check ça. Ça, c'est selon le Journal de Montréal. C'était au Québec, en 2018-2019, seulement 22% des entraîneurs du sport fédéré étaient des femmes. Selon une étude réalisée par Chère Claire Bonenfant, du côté des entraîneurs chefs, seulement 19% des postes étaient occupés par des femmes. Maintenant, toujours par le même Journal de Montréal, aussi dans les comités administratifs, la tendance est la même aux côtés des conseils administratifs. Les fédérations sportives québécoises,
francophones blancs,
où il n'y a seulement que 19% des femmes dans le rôle de présidente. De plus, toujours selon la même étude produite, 22% des membres seulement sont féminins. Donc, là encore, il y a un problème. Tu comprends? C'est pas que si on a autant d'équipes masculines que d'équipes féminines, à the end of the day, il y a autant de filles, je pense, qui vont vouloir coacher à la fin aussi.
Ben, je pense que ça, c'est un autre débat en soi, mais les données, I'm a data guy. And the data are just stagnating. I'll give you an example of a notorious pedophile. His name was James Graham, all right? James Graham, in 1989, was named Hockey News Man of the Year. You see the parallel with what we're talking about? Henry Wong, he'll get you to the States. Great basketball guy. Daniel Lacasse, Coach of the Year, Coach of this. Well, that same Graham James in 1989, Man of the Year, Hockey National Man of the Year, it was turned out that he was convicted for abusing 6 of his young players. Those are the ones that came out. Watch this. Ontario leads the way with about 80% of the cases, not 80% of the case, with close to 100 cases. Quebec is number 2 in terms of abuse. Another crazy piece of data, which goes to what you said.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between charged and convicted. In 2018, less than 70% of the cases charged ended up in convictions. So even with Daniel Lacasse, Robert Liu and Xavier, they are being charged right now. Doesn't mean they're convicted of anything.
Selon moi,
2 of them were released.
Personnellement, je pense qu'au moins 2 des 3 ne feront jamais de prison. Mais déjà là, moi, il faut regarder comment qu'on réussit à avoir une charge d'exploitation sexuelle. C'est ça, là. Puis, tu sais,
moi, je dirais même que dans les images qui sont partagées, and we know this to be a fact, this is sexual distribution material, which is because one thing that we have to not forget is they did it across country. So while
ça devient international. When they were abroad.
When they were abroad, they were distributing texts and images and videos. That then becomes international. They fall under pedophilia laws.
Yeah.
Pornographic pedophilia distribution. Because if you're passing around images, then this is what we're facing here. So they definitely have to do time, in my opinion. This is an opportunity not to have a Henry Wong 2.0, because this will become the case where a lot more francophone, white, Caucasian male are going to feel suddenly empowered to say, the guy got 20 months, whatever. And I give it 10 years. 10, 15 years, we're going to have another.
Ils vont en avoir un autre. Il y en a eu,
même
avant ça, là, il y a eu des coachs à Anjou, il y a eu des coachs à Monarque, il y en a eu. Mais maintenant, il faut que ça cesse. Puis, je m'excuse, si on a une entité provinciale qui chapeaute le tout, lui, il a dit, là, s'il voit un élève arriver dans son école avec un œil au beurre noir, c'est son devoir de faire un report. Mais lui, il voit l'œil au beurre noir parce qu'il est attentif à ça. He's doing his due diligence to make sure that the kids around him, the kids he's responsible to, are okay. Basketball Québec ont le même mandat de s'assurer que dans les programmes, tu peux pas me dire qu'un Henry Wong
Il y a eu un problème à son youth, they don't know. OK. Now he goes to another organization, gets kicked out. Another organization gets kicked out. Il y a quatre
The system empowered him.
comme arrête là.
The system empowered him and enabled him.
Elle lui a permis de faire ça là.
And let's end on this, solutions. Because I think that's what we're
Ouais,
about.
c'est ça qu'on doit
We're
aller.
about solutions. Like concrete solutions to make sure this never happens. Henry's in the past. My understanding is he's dead now. I hope he's in a very warm place called hell. That's my opinion. But what's the solution pertaining right now to St-Laurent Express? I want to hear Pat and then Jessica, and then we'll
wrap
close out,
up,
or
yeah.
we'll wrap it up. Concretely speaking, what do you think are solutions?
I think it really requires people to come forward. As I said, I don't see it as someone who's weak, but someone who's vulnerable. So I want people who are victims not to see themselves as weak, not to see themselves as being a part of a problem. You were preyed on by somebody who was in a position of power who shouldn't have done what they did. And in the case with Henry Wong, I know that somebody came forward because it continued to happen to their next generation of family.
Yeah.
So somebody in their family actually had somebody
Exactly.
that it was happening to also.
To
And they had
brother
to
or
end the
sister or
cycle.
whatever, yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why somebody came forward and said something. So I think it's something where, whether it's teachers, coaches, administrators, they have to, when a kid knows, they have to talk to them and they have to, just try to let them know that it's not their fault. They didn't do anything wrong.
That's it.
I mean, something happened to them, it's bad, but also it's going to continue to happen to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't say anything, then it might happen to your younger sister.
You just perpetuated.
And it's something where I think that's the biggest thing. It's just you have to support those people. Those people have to know who they could talk to. I often say to kids in my school, I'm a guy, you're a girl, you're a young lady. I might not be the person you want to talk to, but there is someone here that you could talk to, whether it's a female teacher, whether it's a guidance counselor. So I think you have to, I wouldn't necessarily say empower them, but you have to let them know these are the outlets that you could go to.
Yeah.
And that's, the RSEQ did step forward,
like
and they
that.
do have a place that you could contact saying, if there's something happening to you, it could be anonymous, and we'll get on it. And I
like
think,
that.
I think that's what has to happen with the
Thank you so much, Pat.
situation.
That's important. What about you, Jess?
Ben, je suis dans la même lignée. C'est important que les filles ils prennent maintenant, justement, pour pas que ça se reproduise. Puis, je pense que la différence entre le cas de Dan et de ce qui est arrivé avant, c'est que maintenant, les gens, les réseaux sociaux, ils n'ont pas le choix. Ça fait la différence. Parce que si on n'en parle pas puis si c'est caché, mais là, le fait d'en parler comme aujourd'hui, de le dénoncer, ça donne plus. À un moment donné, le juge, il n'aura pas le choix de montrer que
faire une sanction.
Exactement, qu'il ne va jamais se reproduire encore. Mais on sait que c'est impossible, il y a tout le temps des petites lacunes. Mais moi, j'encourage les filles à communiquer. J'ai vu, il y a des numéros de téléphone anonymes. Il faut en parler, puis exactement se protéger, puis protéger les autres générations qui vont venir. T'sais.
Parfait.
Même si Dan puis les 3 coachs ne sont plus là, il y a tout le temps des prédateurs un peu partout. Là.
Très bon point. Moi, je vais finir sur ça, puis je te laisserai wrap-up après. D'après moi, ça commence on the top. Moi, je crois qu'il faut décoloniser Basketball Québec. Décoloniser, faut que le sport doit représenter plus le boardroom, not just plantation slaves running around and playing for powerful francophone white Quebecers. I think that's a problem. I think that guys like Pat should be hired to give workshops on how to denounce as a coach. You should be paid. So instead of Daniel Grimard going out and hiring a PR firm, how about you give a call to Pat Sullivan and ask him
How did Sun Youth deal with that situation?
No, not how did Sun Youth, because then he can't speak for Sun Youth. How did you as an individual go about and pay him to give workshops to all your coaches in Quebec? But he won't do that. He won't do that. Because if there is karma, if there's a universe that's listening to everything that's happening, he's going to step down. And then there's going to be a real opportunity to decolonize.
He has no
From
way.
a francophone, anglophone point of view. There's not enough anglophones in there for all the things that anglophone people brought to Basketball Quebec. And there's not enough people of color. I said what I said, and I'm maintaining it. And there's one thing that I'm going to do, because I'll let you end on this. There's a petition going on right now. That's how you get change. You get change by making sure the people make the system, which Basketball Quebec is part of, scared to not act properly. scared to not create awareness campaign, scared to not truly be close to the people. We don't work for you, you work for us. Our tax-paying dollars are paying your job. You should step down. Because if you didn't know what was happening at St-Laurent basketball,
That's a problem. That's a
and
problem.
if you did know, it's still fucked up.
It's even more fucked
You're
up.
damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. That's the part where you do what politicians do, because that's what you are. You step down. And if you're not going to step down, we're going to make you step down. And it's not an attack on you. I played for your brother, Daniel. I hope you listen to this. I would love to have a conversation. If you're a real leader, you would bring all the people on this podcast forward. You would bring all the parents that were potentially hurt by this. And you would do a place where people get to speak. And after this hour to 2 hours, I'm convinced you'll step down. Because you're not the person for the job. Because your job is to anticipate trauma. Your job is not to win basketball tournaments and say we're better than Sun Youth and we're sending kids to the state. Your job is to make
manage.
sure that kids are emancipated emotionally, spiritually, and socially through basketball. And you failed at that. So I'm just going to end on this.
Moi, personnellement, c'est à peu près la même lignée. Honnêtement, c'est une émission spéciale. TechnicalFoulPodcast. Vous allez voir, c'est le deuxième qui sort de suite. Il y a celui qui est sorti lundi avec Daniel Janvier, David Ousmane et Erlyn Noël. Celui-là aujourd'hui. Moi, honnêtement, si vous me suivez, vous voyez que je suis en mission. La mission, ce n'est pas une vendetta contre Daniel Grimard, mais plutôt une vendetta contre le pouvoir et le statu quo qui existe présentement, qui a permis que nos jeunes filles ont pu devenir victimes pour des victoires, pour des bannières, pour des voyages. Donc, ça, c'est quelque chose qui doit ça doit changer. Une chose aussi, toute ma compassion va vraiment aux victimes. Comme on est là, on a fait 2 heures de temps, mais honnêtement, là, ma compassion va vraiment aux victimes. Puis pour éviter qu'on ait encore un autre cas à la Henry Wong ou bien un gars à la Larry Nassar qui continue à faire des trucs pendant des années, vous devez dénoncer. Et comme Pat a dit, la dénonciation, ce n'est pas une faiblesse. Je vois même ça comme une force 100%. Une force de caractère, une force pour démontrer que toi, tu as été victime. You want to make sure that your little sister, the next person behind you won't be a victim. Et ça demande beaucoup de courage. Je suis conscient qu'une fois qu'on dénonce, tous tes amis te regardent, les gens de l'école te regardent. Il y a des doigts qui sont pointés sur toi. Ton scholarship va peut-être y passer. Par contre, plus tard, moi aujourd'hui, j'ai 36 ans. Quand tu vas être rendu à mon âge, tu vas être fier d'avoir eu 100%. Le courage, d'avoir dénoncé, parce que tu vas peut-être avoir, comme Thierry a dit, sauvé la vie de peut-être 3, 30 ou 300 autres jeunes. Moi, je vais vous laisser là-dessus. Si vous avez besoin de dénoncer et que vous n'êtes pas confortable à le faire à la police, comme Pat Sullivan nous l'a conseillé, allez directement au service de la protection des enfants. Si vous pensez qu'il y a quelqu'un qui a peut-être été victime, donnez les renseignements au service de la protection des jeunes. Eux vont faire les démarches nécessaires pour approcher cette personne-là, pour essayer de la faire dénoncer. Mais c'est vraiment important qu'on mette l'accent présentement sur la dénonciation. Plus il y en a, plus il y aura de chances que les juges se sentent dans leurs petits souliers quand ils vont essayer de donner une sentence bonbon.
C'est ça.
Donc, moi, je vais vous laisser là-dessus. Et comme Thierry a dit, moi, je pense qu'un changement doit venir par le haut.
Toujours.
Et moi, je vais aller encore plus loin. Les 3 plus hautes têtes de Basketball Québec doivent démissionner. Il y a quelqu'un en haut, Daniel Grimard, tu dois partir. Daniel Grimard, tu dois partir. Celui juste en dessous, tu dois partir parce que vous travaillez les 3 trop étroitement ensemble pour dire que vous ne connaissez rien.
Shout out à tout le monde qui nous a écoutés. Merci encore une fois, Queen Jess. Merci beaucoup, King
Merci,
Pat.
Pat. Merci, Jessica.
You guys are awesome.
Merci au Parler Studio. C'est là qu'on a enregistré aujourd'hui. Thierry, merci aussi, man, d'avoir fait toute la logistique behind the scene.
Gros gars.
Guys, on fait ça pour la communauté. On vous revient une autre fois. On ne lâche pas le combat. Peace. À la prochaine.
Hey-oh.
No. I got this. I got a tech on him and a tech on him. Tech. Right there.